Otaku in the Marvel DC Universe. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 426 Little King Kong and Chapter X27, New Skills. Once the distance increases, the control starts to become a little less flexible. Looking at the bloodbird in the distance, already bound into a mummy, struggling and writhing, Liang Yue frowned slightly. Could it be approaching the edge of the domain? That's not right either. Theoretically, with my current mental strength, I should be able to expand this domain to 100 meters without much problem in its extreme state. So, is there a problem with the structure and system of the domain? The ability, newly created, is not yet perfect and needs more patching and improvement. That's right, after all, it's still in the exploratory stage. Thinking of this, Liang Yue's heart was relieved at the same time. With a thought, the mummy in the distance instantly turned into a hedgehog. Countless sharp thorns grew on the originally rough and tough vines, and the moment they pierced into the bloodbird's body, they emptied the boss's health bar with a sound. The next moment, with a miserable wail, a pile of gold coins, plus a piece of golden equipment, fell down. Looking from afar, the equipment was actually just a hunting bow. Still a boss, really stingy. After glancing at the dropped items on the ground, Liang Yue rolled his eyes with a leap. He came to the tree, threw the gold coins and hunting bow into the storage space, turned his head to look around, and walked towards the great mausoleum not far away. Although, after solving the bloodbird, Liang Yue's mission could be considered complete in the absence of too much experience requirement, returning directly to the empty hands in the task, and then continuing to the next stage, is the most practical choice. But Liang Yue did not do this. At this moment, he had a lot of questions and ideas, and he couldn't wait to put them into practice. Enough experimental subjects are what he urgently needs at the moment. In this way, under Liang Yue's wholehearted investment, unknowingly, 5 days passed. When he returned to the stronghold world from the instance again, the plot progress in Diablo 2 had actually been completed in the first 2 acts. From the moment he actively left the instance, Liang Yue had entered the harbor city of the 3rd act, and re-recruited an ice-type mage as a mercenary. And after these days of research and attempts, his insights and understanding of the Liang domain have naturally made considerable progress. Although there are still many shortcomings, the basic structure of this domain has been consolidated and determined in his constant exploration. Furthermore, only with shortcomings can there be progress. The existence of shortcomings naturally means that there is still room for improvement. In short, Liang Yue's current achievements in the Liang domain have basically been able to achieve the effective aura-like skills. Like the paladin profession in the Diablo 2 game, each of the 3 attributes of thunder, fire, and wood can be regarded as a separate aura skill. The domain performance direction of thunder and fire is naturally mainly based on attack effects due to the power of the heavenly tribulation. The damage of the thunder attribute domain is of course the highest. In addition, it may also have the auxiliary effect of paralyzing and stiffening the target. Unfortunately, because the damage is increased, the monsters and bosses in other instances, except for Anduril and Duriel, are directly killed in seconds. And the existence of this other big boss, because of its own settings, basically does not eat negative states, so this effect is temporarily invisible. In comparison, the fire attribute domain is actually similar in this regard. While giving the enemy fire damage, it can also add a certain amount of burning, and even explosive effects to the target. But also because Liang Yue's own cultivation is too high, resulting in the fire attribute damage is also good, the level is basically a second kill state. The wood attribute domain is more flexible when used, and Liang Yue's autonomy and control is also higher. However, the consumption is naturally not small. In addition, although these kinds of progress and changes seem to be very beautiful and powerful, but in the end, it is just his own opinion. Liang Yue never dared to despise or even despise others because of his little achievements. The monsters in the instance are ultimately low in intelligence, and they don't have any defensive skills or shield skills themselves, purely relying on their bodies to resist damage. It is right for him to kill them in seconds. The problem that Liang Yue is thinking about now is actually, if he encounters an opponent of the same level one day, how can he take down the opponent without any effort? The domain is not omnipotent after all. In detail, it is just a means of dealing with the enemy attached to the road of cultivation. Not surprising, and not enough to rely on too much as far as I know. There are at least 3 or 4 methods that can be used to fight against it, and this is only in the case where the opponent is at the same level as me. Once the target's cultivation level is higher than mine, there are even more ways to deal with it. In fact, in the Diablo 2 instance, there also seem to be some set monsters that can fight against domain like power, lightning immune, fire immune, magic immune, elemental immune. Let's see then. It's just right to use them to do experiments. Thinking this way, just came out of the instance, a glance, Liang Yue actually caught up with the gap between the end of the women's instance I saw at this time. Hinata, Arwen, Siko Senpai, Shizuka Sensei, Zaya Ozio, Rachel and others, were sitting in the opposite rest area, discussing something enthusiastically. 11 people plus a monkey, one more and one less, all with a look of joy on their faces. It seems that they are all very satisfied with their gains from this trip to the instance. So happy? What are you discussing? Slowly walked over, but before reaching the woman, the little King Kong, who was originally lying on Shizuka Sensei's chest, jumped to his shoulder, mouth squeaking, conveying its excitement to Liang Yue. Level up to 43, and also learned a new skill? What skill? Squeak, claw blade. Isn't that similar to the previous scratch, squeak squeak, not the same? How is it different? Liang Yue squinted his eyes at this time, deliberately teasing this little guy who knew that this little King Kong was still a practical actionist. A mini little claw scratched at the air in front of him with a sound. I saw that, with a little King Kong's seemingly ordinary wave of his claws, 3 fierce claw marks like air blades suddenly left the claws and went out, like sharp steel knives, making a burst of short screams, and quickly advanced more than 20 meters before suddenly turning into a gust of wind and dissipating. Awesome. Contract Battle Beast. Little King Kong, from a Beeman King Battle Beast group in the Zhang Sanfang Otherworld Tour World Bloodline, Beeman Battle Beast level 43 height, 5.12 meters stage, mid-growth stage. Talent ability, tenacious life, intelligent, imitation, super powerful, agile, paralysis toxin, combat instinct, size as desired, armor piercing, super magic resistance. Combat skills, scratch, bite, claw blade. Chapter 427, A Great Harvest. Well, with a new dungeon online, Little Kong didn't have to worry about leveling up anymore. However, the experience from the Dark 2 dungeon on normal difficulty was obviously a little low. Even though Liang Yue had leveled the Wind Phantom Dragon template to max level, Little Kong had only reached level 43. But, thinking about it carefully, it was also reasonable. After all, his Wind Phantom Dragon template was only from a survival game, while Little Kong, the Beeman Battle Beast, was a purely combat profession. Liang Yue. Shizuka, I've successfully changed classes. Guess what class I am now? Just as Liang Yue casually summoned Little Kong's Battle Beast panel, examining the little guy's growth information, Shizuka Sensei couldn't wait to greet him with a fierce bear hug. Her chin resting on someone's chest, she looked at him and said, "Huh? You've already cleared the dungeon?" Liang Yue was surprised to hear that, looking at Shizuka Sensei in his arms, and then glancing at the excited faces of the women opposite him, he thought that he should speed up his progress as well. I think, Shizuka, you should have changed to Paladin, right, eh? Little Liang Yue, you guess it right away, because Shizuka Sensei likes to use shields. Arriving at the dining table where the women were, after some conversation, Liang Yue quickly obtained a lot of useful information from them. Among them, in addition to the classes the women had chosen to change to, there were also some items that needed attention during the process. Shizuka Sensei naturally changed to Paladin Sayatakaji, as expected, chose to become an elemental mage, and Yuriko Enti was also an elemental mage. Hinata, Zio Zhao, and Yang Yu who became assassins, and Rachel changed to a druid. Besides that, Siko Senpai, Rikaminami, Alwyn, and Nana all chose to become Amazons. From the class changes of the women, it can be seen that Amazon and Assassin are the professions they prefer. This was very different from the mage profession that Liang Yue had predicted. After all, the advanced route they were mainly studying at the moment was still the path of a mage. If Hinata, Zio Zhao, and Yang Yu who chose Assassin because they were going the melee route, then the remaining few were really surprising. After asking, Liang Yue understood that in the women's hearts, magic skills were nothing new. After all, through the output of the zombie mine, they had already accumulated enough spell-like skills, and what everyone really valued were the passive skills in the Dark 2 class skill tree. In addition, it is worth mentioning that the corresponding professions in the dungeon that everyone is currently employed in, although they all come from the Dark 2 game architecture, are actually improved by the system. Just like the previous Wind Phantom Dragon template, the original setting of 5 free attribute points per level up has now been increased to 10. In addition, with each level up, their 4-dimensional attributes will also increase by 1 point respectively. This is slightly different from the Wind Phantom Dragon template's mode of choosing 1 out of 5% attack power, defense, health, and elemental resistance. Liang Yue was very much looking forward to this, yet, after this class change, the original Wind Phantom Dragon template, which was only level 30, is gone, and the levels have been reset, but the previous attribute points and extra rewards have been retained in addition. Those parts about the Dragon Clan bloodline bonus have also been retained. Liang Yue, who on the side heard the words, holding a wine glass at this time, bulging her cheeks, and explained to him in a somewhat vague voice, retain the attribute points and extra rewards of level 30? That's not bad. It seems that the Wind Phantom Dragon and Dark 2 professions have formed a stacking effect. Liang Yue nodded thoughtfully when he heard the words, and was quite satisfied with this result in his heart. Although it didn't form the kind of mutated template he was most looking forward to, at least, there was no worst-case scenario of mutual cancellation. What about the extra reward for clearing the dungeon and changing classes? The system shouldn't be stingy, right? Regarding this point, we are all waiting for you. At this time, Sayatakaji on the other side suddenly came over, looking at him with a proud and coquettish look, and continued. The system said that the extra clearance reward needs to be obtained by lottery, but we, as your villagers, are not qualified to conduct a system lottery, so you need to draw it for us. There's such a thing? This system is really too inhumane. Liang Yue obviously felt a resentment in the heart of the young lady in front of him when he heard the words, so he quickly patted the table with a look of common hatred, and then quickly changed the topic. That about the lottery, everyone should have a chance, right? Yeah, everyone got a chance to draw a lottery. What is the scope? Completely random, or is there a limit? We are not very clear about this. The system only said that the scope of the lottery comes from the real dark world, and there is no further prompto? The real original world? That's a bit surprising. Okay, enough nonsense. Let's start drawing your prizes now. Speaking, Liang Yue took a large wine glass handed over by Hinata beside him, poured a mouthful into his mouth, and then acted in everyone's expectations and excitement. Ling. Congratulations to the host for drawing the reward of all skills +3 for Jakal Shizuka in this lottery. Ling. Congratulations to the host for drawing the reward of elemental damage +50% for Hyuga Hinata in this lottery. Ling. Congratulations to the host for drawing the reward of passive skill effect +30% for Yang Yue in this lottery. Ling. Drawing the reward of upgrade free attribute points gained multiplied by 2 for Takaji Saya. In addition, the experience required for upgrading is also multiplied by 2 under this reward mode. Ling. Drawing the reward of elemental damage +50% for Takaji Yuriko. Ling. Elwin. All elemental resistance +75. Ling. Rikaminami. Extra free skill points 30. Ling. Sikobyo Sujima. All skill damage +30%. Ling. Xiao Zhao. Skill mutation permission 5 times. Ling. Rachel. All skill damage +30%. Ling. Nana. Skill mutation permission 5 times. Chapter 428 Druid and Wind Dragon. Quickly, another 5 days passed. Well, 5 days in the base world, but in reality, only 1 day had passed under the stimulation of the women around him. Liang Yue, feeling that he should make an early start like a clumsy bird and be spurred to action by shame, had finally completed the normal difficulty of the Diablo 2 dungeon. After this period of intensive map running and monster slaying, all quests were completed. With the help of the system, after completing his class change, he also received his own share of extra rewards, and the class Liang Yue ultimately chose, like Little Eagle Rachel, was Druid. This was the result of his careful consideration. In fact, if purely from a rational point of view, if one were to say which of the 7 Diablo classes was most compatible with him, it would probably be the Barbarian. Although there is a bit of a difference in image, both of them use swords after all, and they both use dual swords. Apart from not being too fond of the war cry skill tree, Liang Yue was very satisfied with the Barbarian's active and passive skill trees. Unfortunately, choosing the Druid class was a decision he had already made in advance. The reason that prompted Liang Yue to make this choice actually stemmed from the Wind Phantom Dragon template from before. Counting the entire growth process of this template framework, Liang Yue's gains were not too great apart from the normal leveling, growth, and attribute points. He only obtained 2 special abilities from the Wind Phantom Dragon's bloodline. The first was the skill Eye of Truth, which he comprehended when he reached level 5. As for this skill, It was actually an ability that Liang Yue and the woman in the base world had comprehended together. In other words, as long as the Wind Phantom Dragon template was used, this skill would definitely be obtained, no omissions. The second ability was Breath of the Wind Dragon, which he obtained when he reached the maximum level of 30. As the name suggests, the so-called Breath of the Wind Dragon is actually a type of dragon breath. The most powerful damage output method in the traditional sense of Western dragons. The attribute is wind. The specific output method is similar to Smaug the dragon in The Hobbit, spitting it out of the mouth. However, unlike the flame spewed out by Smaug, the manifestation of the wind breath is a dense, exceptionally small array of wind blades. The power is very good, so much so that Liang Yue also wanted to take this opportunity to become accomplished in wind-based spells, and after counting all the classes in Diablo 2, only the druid possesses wind-based magic skills. It is said that Rachel also obtained the Breath of the Wind Dragon ability from the Wind Phantom Dragon template. In fact, perhaps because they both belong to the sky species. The compatibility between the Wind Phantom Dragon's bloodline power and the giant eagle Rachel is much greater than that of others, not the kind of bat-like wing claws of Smaug, but dragon claws with independent dragon arms. In addition, the dragon tail, a pair of dragon horns on the forehead, and even the feathers on the body have faded, replaced by solid dragon scales. Of course, Liang Yue could not envy these fusions and evolutions from the dragon bloodline. In fact, he was also very glad that his body had not undergone this kind of dragon-shaped appearance change during the upgrade process. Otherwise, he would probably find it difficult to leave the cover of DNF fashion for a considerable period of time in the future. Well, let's get back to the topic regarding the issue of extra rewards. After the class change, Liang Yue had naturally already completed the lottery. As a result, like the reward he helped teacher Shizuka draw, it was all skills plus 3 in addition, with a few free skill points that Liang Yue had gained during the dungeon quest. It was basically enough to light up the druid skill tree. The druid class's skill tree is divided into 3 parts: summoning, elemental magic, and shape-shifting. First of all, Liang Yue has no interest in shape-shifting abilities, so he won't waste any effort in this area. But Rachel, who also changed her class to druid, probably cares about this very much. However, presumably that little eagle is not too interested in transforming into a werewolf or a werebear. If there is a chance to transform into a dragon, that is her ultimate goal, and apart from the shape-shifting system, the elemental magic system is naturally the focus of Liang Yue's research, while the summoning system is responsible for assisting. In fact, regarding the extra rewards, although the all skills plus 3 that he drew was already quite good, what Liang Yue valued most was actually the 5 skill mutation permissions reward that Nana and Xia Azeo had obtained before. The so-called skill mutation refers to the personalized exclusive modification of a skill on the skill tree. It can make the selected skill itself more compatible with the caster and more personalized. After the mutation, whether the skill power will become stronger is not to say. First, at least in terms of the use of spells, it will be more free than the previous fixed skill form. Correspondingly, in this process of mutation, the caster will also passively become more and more profound in his understanding of the skill. This is actually what Liang Yue wants. However, no matter what, the extra reward of all skills plus 3 is also very good. After completing the class change, the women in the base world couldn't help but split into 2 factions. The first is the dungeon attacking main battle faction composed of Senior Seiko, Arwen, Nanrika, Hinata, and Little King Kong, with a blessing of the new career system. After only eating and drinking and resting for a while, the next day they couldn't wait to enter the nightmare difficulty dungeon. The remaining Takashiro mother and daughter, teacher Shizuka, Xia Azeo, Yang Yue, Nana, and Rachel chose to stop temporarily. Some rested, some went shopping. Liang Yue also followed the older sisters of the second group, and did not choose to enter the dungeon immediately, but returned to reality, and took Sam, who was living in his apartment, plus Peter, to wander around New York City. The beautiful name is spring break extracurricular activities. The last trip to Osborne was not enjoyable, so taking this opportunity, they went to visit famous attractions such as the Metropolitan Museum, the Museum of Natural History, and Broadway. Unfortunately, the current season is not the best time to view plants. Otherwise, Liang Yue would not mind revisiting the old place and browsing and staying in places such as the New York Botanical Garden, where he had previously profited. Chapter 429 Subway Chronicles. As dusk approached, Liang Yue, after parting ways with Peter and Sam, didn't immediately teleport home. Instead, he took the subway, a rare occurrence, heading towards his home in northern New York City. The northern part of New York City is considered a low-income area, and the closer to the city's edge, the more complex and disordered the residents become. However, Somewhat frustratingly, the Xavier Institute that Liang Yue bought is actually located on the very edge of northern New York, and going further up would already be within the jurisdiction of another city. Therefore, compared to those more traditional wealthy areas and luxury villa districts, the cultural environment where his home is located isn't particularly outstanding. Fortunately, the geographical environment there is quite good. Large expanses of pristine forest and flowing streams surround the manor. Furthermore, during Christmas last year, Tony Stark bought over 3,000 acres of land north of the Xavier Institute and gave it to him as a Christmas gift. The man can now be described as having leaped into the landlord class if he wanted to. Liang Yue could completely change the environment and terrain around the manor, creating an independent kingdom isolated from New York City. Of course, he personally wasn't too interested in those low-income areas not far from the manor, and he didn't have any thoughts of benefiting the people nearby. After all, this is America, and he has no obligation to help this country's lower class obtain benefits. During the ride, Liang Yue was sitting quietly in the subway car. The surrounding crowd was a bit crowded, the air was somewhat noisy, and faintly permeated with a mixture of sweat, foot odor, body odor, and even the smell of urine. This smell wasn't too obvious, as it was masked by a stronger disinfectant scent, but Liang Yue, as a being whose five senses far exceeded those of ordinary people, was able to keenly distinguish the difference. Inadvertently, he frowned slightly because of this. However, the people around him didn't seem to care, appearing calm and accustomed to it. Not far away, several black youths dressed in bizarre clothing, covered in iron rings and chains, were gesticulating and chatting happily among themselves. Occasionally glancing in his direction, Liang Yue ignored them. With his current strength, he naturally wouldn't be disturbed by the gaze of a few small-time gangsters at this moment. He was still in the adjustment period after returning from the Naruto world. The reason why he had been wandering around New York City and not being very active in leveling up recently was simply because Liang Yue wanted to integrate into real society more quickly. After all, the life in the ninja world for more than 10 years had greatly changed Liang Yue's own temperament. Years of combat had greatly increased his combat power, but it had also caused a deviation in his mentality similar to when he returned from the Hobbit world before. With Liang Yue's current state of mind, although he wouldn't develop any war-related syndromes, but as someone with a grand goal of conquering the heavens, he couldn't allow any mistakes to occur in these details concerning his own foundation. Of course, Liang Yue at this moment wasn't just observing the people and things in the car while adjusting and smoothing his emotions. Liang Yue was actually multitasking, secretly cultivating the I-Meridian Sutra that he had obtained from the system before at a low intensity, relying on his already vastly improved spiritual power control skills and the cover of the DNF fashion. Everything was proceeding silently as time passed. The people in the car gradually decreased. Soon, even the black guys who had been watching him for a long time had all gotten off the subway. Just when Liang Yue thought he would be sitting alone until the last stop, a woman with a scholarly aura walked into the adjacent car. She had a good appearance, wore gold-rimmed glasses, and had a dignified and gentle feeling of an elegant lady. Her dress was more inclined towards a university teacher. After glancing at Liang Yue, who was Asian and had a friendly face, she obviously breathed a sigh of relief. After tightening the well-made coat on her body, she quickly sat down on a chair not far from him across the aisle. Liang Yue glanced at this woman with some surprise, feeling a bit strange in his heart because, according to the current location of the subway line, the car seemed to have already entered the low-income area, and this woman didn't seem to belong here. However, it couldn't be ruled out that the other party had some other purpose. It's just that with the time already being 8:20 in the evening, it didn't seem like a wise choice for such a single woman to run into a low-income community. Of course, Liang Yue's thoughts at this moment were just fleeting, like a strand of scattered thoughts that lingered in his heart every moment. It quickly disappeared. After all, the other party had nothing to do with him. Speaking of which, shouldn't I go see Betty? After sending her to Stark Industries before, other than sending a gift during Christmas, it seems like I haven't seen her much. For no reason, Liang Yue suddenly thought of that familiar figure at this moment, and the corners of his originally pursed lips unconsciously curved up. Could it be that some large company has recently opened in the vicinity? These people seemed to be coming for this woman. Taking advantage of their drunkenness, they stood in front of her, loudly saying some flirtatious and teasing words. Before long, one of the men's hands had begun to play with a woman's hair, and the others were also looking excited and unable to control themselves like a group of bulls in heat. It seemed that they wanted to take advantage of the situation and drag the other party to a secluded place for an intense group fight. However, this woman obviously didn't have this idea, trying to avoid the other party's physical teasing and refusing in a low voice, and then looked towards Liang Yue for help. Liang Yue seemed to find it difficult to continue to watch. So, after a light whistle, This guy simply and neatly turned his hand over and took out a handgun that he hadn't used for a long time from his storage backpack with 2 caw-caw sounds. He pointed the gun at the men not far away. Coincidentally, these people who were drunk were also attracted by the whistling sound, and they all looked at him with some slow reactions faced with the sudden appearance of the gun. The few people subconsciously shivered and took a few steps back, but after seeing that the person holding the gun was just an Asian, one of them immediately perked up, pointed at Liang Yue with his finger, stepped forward, and scolded him. "You yellow-skinned monkey. How dare you point a gun at me? Believe it or not, my lawyer tomorrow." Bang 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 bang. Without hesitation, 4 shots in a row, the bullets directly hit the other party's shoulders and knees. Relying on his superb marksmanship, Liang Yue skillfully avoided the blood vessels in the man's vital points, but he really embedded the bullets into the other party's bones immediately afterwards. Amid the woman's screams, the remaining men, seeing that the situation was not good, turned around and fled to another car at the first moment. During the process, they stumbled and fell several times, but they didn't dare to slow down afterwards. Liang Yue ignored the man's slightly miserable wailing sound after being shot, as well as the woman who had shrunk into a ball in fright across from him, and put away the pistol in his heart. He couldn't help but feel a trace of confusion. It seems that I still have a bit of post-traumatic stress disorder. Chapter 430 Arc Reactor. After getting off the subway at the nearest station, Liang Yue, under Xiao Wu's electronic shielding, quickly and uneventfully returned home. Just as he was about to enter the Stronghold world, Xiao Wu sent him a somewhat unexpected message report. "Master, there's news online about Mr. Stark. He seems to have been attacked by unknown individuals during a race in Monaco." Oh, upon hearing this, Liang Yu's heart stirred, and Xiao Wu, who was genetically and brainwave linked to him, immediately projected the relevant video footage in front of him on a professional racetrack. The brilliant sunlight scorched the earth on both sides of the track. A large number of spectators were gathered not far behind the safety nets. In the center of the track, a middle-aged man with disheveled long hair was wielding 2 electric whips, twirling them while holding a toothpick in his mouth, constantly approaching Tony Stark, who was only wearing a racing suit. It's worth noting that a circular glowing object was placed on the middle-aged man's chest, resembling Stark's miniature arc reactor. However, Liang Yue knew that the devices on these 2 men were not the same type, or rather, not from the same generation. Seeing this scene, someone familiar with the plot immediately realized what was happening. That middle-aged man is Whiplash. Yes, Ivan Vanko. Believing himself to be burdened with a deep blood feud, he had traveled from the distant country of the Arctic Bear to Monaco, with the aim of avenging himself against Tony Stark. At this moment, the middle-aged man's behavior seemed a bit reckless. In broad daylight, he dared to attack Stark, the top American tycoon, on the racetrack. In reality, this man was exceptionally clever. It would naturally be best to kill Stark on the spot, but even if he couldn't kill him, his actions could still use the arc reactor on his body as bait to lure out individuals interested in the arc reactor technology to cooperate with him. After some maneuvers, Ivan Vanko was immediately knocked to the ground. However, that wasn't the end of it. The system also sent Liang Yue his first mission in the real world at this time, Ling. Based on the current development of the real-world plot, the system hereby releases the mission Arc Reactor. As the key to humanity's overall step out of Earth, the host needs to master this type of nuclear fusion technology. Mission requirements: obtain a physical sample of the Arc Reactor and the complete reactor technology. Mission rewards: 1 random tech-related lottery opportunity, and 1,000 points in the store. Looks like the difficulty of this mission isn't too high. It's only 1,000 points. And the lottery type is also limited to the technology range from Xiao Wu. After having the arc reactor, you should be able to deduce the corresponding technology. Right, after understanding the mission information, Liang Yue subconsciously turned his neck, and a series of cracking sounds of bones popping immediately echoed in the air. Looking at the Stark attack incident in front of him, which had quickly topped the headlines of major media outlets around the world, a sense of anticipation unconsciously arose in his heart. Of course, Master. As long as you can get a physical sample of the arc reactor, Xiao Wu can definitely deduce the corresponding technology in a short period of time. And as long as various experimental materials and equipment are in place, even assembly line production equipment won't be a problem for Xiao Wu. That's good. Speaking of which, although Liang Yue considered himself a genius, and had some unique insights in terms of cultivation and enlightenment, but for technology-related things, he had always been just a passive user. If Liang Yue had to develop the arc reactor and the technical principles behind it himself, this guy would most likely be unwilling because he didn't want to waste his precious time on things that didn't align with his main cultivation path. Fortunately, Liang Yue now had Xiao Wu by his side, which could save him a lot of trouble. By the way, if we're just talking about the technology of the arc reactor, doesn't Ivan himself have it? Extracting information from the other party's soul is exactly my strength. However, the system said it's the complete version of the reactor technology. This requirement is infinitely close to the knowledge that Stark possesses. Ivan's concept seems to be a bit incomplete right now. What's the reason? Simply not enough speed. It shouldn't be that simple, right? And he'll soon get Stark's guidance. Thinking of this, Liang Yue immediately had Xiao Wu check the other party's current location. As a result, it was obvious that Ivan had only been arrested a few minutes ago, and hadn't even entered the detention center yet, and was currently being escorted by a group of police officers to the local police station. As for the crude version of the arc reactor that Tony tore off from the other party's body, it was blown up on the spot by this dog tycoon. It seems like it's still a bit early. Forget it, let's wait for the later plot to take action anyway. The system hasn't specified a time for completing the mission, so it won't affect the mission rewards. However, as Stark's friend and partner, I should visit him. Then let's go together tomorrow. After making up his mind, Liang Yue just had Xiao Wu pay attention to Tony's movements, and then flashed into the stronghold world. As soon as he arrived in the village, he looked up and saw the figures of the Takagi mother and daughter, Liang Yue, Nana, and others, gathered together in the distance, whispering something abnormally, and teacher Shizuka was even more flushed, her eyes filled with tears, and she was breathing rapidly. What's wrong? Looking at the appearance of teacher Shizuka, Liang Yue subconsciously touched the other party's forehead, and then directly cast an observation spell on this woman. The feedback he received was that Shizuka had been drugged. How did this happen? Looking at teacher Shizuka, who is already pulling his arm and then throwing herself into his arms, Liang Yue immediately turned his gaze to Nana, who was looking a little uneasy and had a strange expression. Before returning from the city, we found a bar that looked decent nearby. Who knew that we had only just drunk 2 glasses when we were targeted? Sister Shizuka, without paying attention, fell for those people's tricks. Fortunately, the result was thrilling but not dangerous. The effects of this drug don't seem to be strong, and those people have already been knocked down by us. After speaking, Nana stuck out her tongue and shyly shifted her gaze to the other side. A drug that can affect you guys, and the effect isn't strong. Why not just detoxify? Looking at Shizuka, who was hugging him and slowly twisting in his arms, Liang Yue pursed his lips and asked. It was said that detoxification shouldn't be difficult for them, whether it was the antidote in the Diablo 2 dungeon, or the milk, ancient fruit wine, and other items in the current stronghold world. They all had considerable detoxification effects. Who knew? After hearing this, Saya Takagi rolled her eyes at him, then crossed her arms and put on a teasing look on her face. Does that need to be said? Sister Shizuka is waiting for you. Chapter 431 Stark in Chapter X27, S Troubles. A fierce wind sweeps away fallen leaves. Rain batters tattered banana plants. Soon, the entire night passed by. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, Liang Yue, looking refreshed, stepped into the Stark Group's office building in New York City. Shortly after, Miss Natasha picked him up, and the two took the elevator to Tony's personal living area on the top floor of the building. Through the monitoring of the intelligent AI, Xiao Wu, Tony had flown directly to New York after leaving Monaco last night. To be honest, Liang Yue was a little surprised by this, because according to his speculation, the most likely place for the other party to go should have been the mansion on Malibu Beach. In fact, after Pepper was placed on the throne of CEO of Stark Group, Tony Stark spent less time in New York, mostly staying at home. To be precise, he should be staying in his underground workshop, constantly researching new models of Iron Man armor. He was completely engrossed in it. In addition, due to Liang Yue's intervention, Tony had solved his heavy metal palladium poisoning problem a long time in advance, and with the supply of the powerful new energy arc reactor, he could wholeheartedly devote himself to his research without any burden. He completely skipped a long period of decadence from the Iron Man 2 storyline. Of course, this matter may not be entirely a good thing. Yo, look who it is at this time. It seemed that only Tony was in the top floor living area. He was holding a glass of whiskey, drinking it while absent-mindedly flipping through news about himself on TV. I heard you were attacked, so I came to visit a fellow patient. After entering the door, Liang Yue walked straight to the bar and casually sat down on a round stool. Although I myself was not injured. Did you come empty-handed? Thumped. Liang Yue naturally knew what the big shot meant, so he directly placed a bottle of ancient fruit wine on the bar. Seeing this, a satisfied smile appeared on Stark's old face. Inside the bar, Miss Natasha, who was temporarily acting as a bartender, also looked over with eager eyes. Speaking of which, Liang Yue hadn't seen this young lady for a long time since she had stomach problems after drinking his ancient fruit wine last time, but judging from her complexion, the woman's physical condition seemed to be very good now. Have you figured out how to solve this matter? After taking the cocktail handed over by Natasha, Liang Yue looked at Tony Stark, who was carefully wiping the bottle of ancient fruit wine next to him before carefully opening the wine cabinet. Huh? What matter? Are you talking about yesterday's attack? I've already solved it. Kid. Hearing his words, Stark's original movements paused slightly, and then he said with a nonchalant look again, don't kid around, buddy. I'm talking about the aftermath. Ivan Vanko's Iron Man armor is crude, but the arc reactor in his chest is real. Some forces with ideas about this will not let go of such a good opportunity, so the technology of the miniaturized arc reactor will likely not be kept secret at that time. Even if the things those people create are not as advanced as yours at Stark, they can still make up for it with sufficient quantity, so the US military will probably not be so polite to you anymore. Tony looking at Tony Stark, who was already wearing a worried look on his face, Liang Yue couldn't help but roll his eyes secretly. If he remembered correctly, he seemed to have already given advice on the issue of sharing the Iron Man armor with the military before, like in the original plot. Finding someone he trusts who can also gain the trust of the military to become another Iron Man is undoubtedly the best solution for Tony Stark. Stark obviously understood this principle as a member of the top American power elite. The behavior of eating alone will definitely be rejected. Alone and helpless, he himself would not be able to hold on for long. Of course, Liang Yue actually underestimated this guy on this issue. In fact, until this moment, Tony Stark still had not taken the initiative to send the Iron Man armor out. And his Cold War game with the military forces was still deadlocked. Humph. About this let's not discuss it for now. Estimating that Stark hadn't thought of a good solution for the time being, he simply changed the subject instead. He sat down next to him with his wine glass, and then looked at him with a strange look. His expression was hesitant, his eyes were shining, and he seemed a little embarrassed to speak. I say, you've been short on money lately, cough, haven't you? Not short. Hearing this, Liang Yue looked at Stark strangely, and then glanced at Natasha, who also had a funny look on her face. Tisk, how can you not be short? You are still young now, and you are still curious about many things in the world. You have to try many things. In addition, your manor needs a lot of expenses for daily maintenance. Oh, I also heard recently that you have more than a dozen beautiful maids. These all cost money, right? Also, regarding Elizabeth's side speaking, Tony Stark immediately put on an experienced look, gave him a meaningful smile, took a sip of wine leisurely, and then continued, don't worry, I won't run to tell on you about this, but Elizabeth's identity is very unusual, and the daily expenses are even more. As her boyfriend, shouldn't you work hard to make money for this? Okay, Tony, just say what you want to say. You should understand that if I need money, I can get it at any time. Besides, aren't we already in business together? The dividend should be credited soon, right? Looking at the big shot in front of him, Liang Yue smiled meaningfully at this time. He could naturally see from Stark's previous performance that the other party had something to ask of him. It's just that he seemed a little embarrassed to open his mouth for a while. About the dividend, I'm afraid you'll have to wait a while. You know, as a professional and high-end industry giant, our profit settlement must follow strict procedures, which involves many procedures, such as finance, tax avoidance, etc. Well, okay, these are not important. Saying that, Stark himself seemed to think his statement was unreliable, so he decisively ended the previous excuse, and instead looked at him tentatively, and continued, you really don't plan to exchange some more US dollars from me? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432 Metal, Iridium. Are you really not planning to exchange some US dollars from me again? Recently, I found another way to make money. Liang Yue refused very simply upon hearing this. Then, is there nothing I can do? After all, I, Tony Stark, am a top figure in America. Many things you can't do, I can do, kid, like that, more land or something. Alright, that's it. Don't you Chinese people value land a lot? I can help you get it, even if it's a place that's not originally for sale. After speaking, Tony looked at him with anticipation, his eyes seemingly shining. Even the hand not holding the wine glass was unconsciously making wave-like motions. Okay, actually, I do have some things I want to import from you. Seeing the eager look on this guy's face, Liang Yue readily agreed. That's right, kid. Speak. No matter what you want to import from me, I can consider it, as long as it's not too sensitive. Seeing Liang Yue agree, Tony Stark seemed to regain some intelligence at this moment, not making his promise to absolve Zia Wu. List out what you need and show it to Mr. Stark. Okay, master. As he spoke, to the surprise of Stark and Natasha, a light screen suddenly popped out from Liang Yue's bracelet. On the light screen, the Q version of the little Taoist of the intelligent brain Zia Wu also appeared instantly. Subsequently, through Zia Wu's remote operation, the holographic display screen that originally belonged to Tony Stark's intelligent butler Jarvis was immediately taken over by him immediately afterward. A long list of electronic instruments and experimental equipment appeared on the screen. The whole process was very short. Only 2 or 3 seconds after the operation was completed, Zia Wu politely bowed to Stark and Natasha respectively before disappearing. Only then did the two of them come back to their senses, and there seemed to be a few more different things in their eyes when they looked at Liang Yue. There was shock at the appearance of another artificial intelligence, and it also contained a sense of expectation. Besides that, a trace of envy, jealousy, and hatred was definitely indispensable. In short, it was a very complicated emotion. After waking up, Tony Stark tilted his head back and drained the whiskey in his glass, then walked towards the holographic screen on the side, saying as he walked, in other words, "You've gotten another artificial intelligence during this time." Yes. Liang Yue turned the round chair and leaned on the bar. In fact, Zia Wu has done a lot in importing these experimental equipment recently. Unfortunately, most of what can be bought through normal channels on the market is not what Zia Wu wants. Simply put, Zia Wu doesn't like things that are too low level, and manufacturers won't sell things that are too advanced. At least not to ordinary people like Liang Yue. To be precise, it's like him, an ordinary Chinese person. Some equipment and instruments that can be independently designed and then sent to the manufacturer for personalized customization require a lot of time to wait. Moreover, once they are made, if people find them too advanced, they will most likely still not sell them to Liang Yue, a Chinese person. In short, it's really hard to say. However, Zia Wu has not been without success recently. At least, some experimental equipment, materials, consumables, etc. that are not top-notch but can be used are progressing smoothly, and he has already placed many orders. After a while, they should be shipped to Liang Yue's manor one after another. In addition, compared to the stumbles in reality, Zia Wu's operations in the stock market have been smooth sailing. In just a few days, the previous $50 million has more than doubled, and the capital pool has successfully exceeded 9 figures. This is still the result after the purchase advance payment has been made. I have to say that having such an intelligent optical brain in hand is simply a personal money printing machine exclusive to Liang Yue. In addition, it is worth mentioning that after Liang Yue obtained the intelligent optical brain from the unlimited lottery, the system wall has also put it on the shelves. However, if you think about it carefully, the Wind Phantom Dragon's template was just a prize that Liang Yue drew from an ordinary lottery opportunity, while this intelligent optical brain consumed his precious unlimited level lottery. If these two are equivalent, it means that Liang Yue's previous unlimited level lottery was a loss, a big loss. Super microwave light wave instrument, 10 nanometer lithography machine, supercomputer, top-level content server, cutting-edge biological experimental equipment. Let me guess, are you trying to do scientific research using the artificial intelligence just now? And it's in the biological field. Speaking, Stark turned his face to look at him with a strange expression. Yes, my intelligent optical brain is relatively advanced and has a strong ability to deduce technology. Liang Yue heard the words and admitted generously, even the most advanced artificial intelligence has no creativity, unless it is an out-of-control artificial intelligence, like Skynet in Terminator, which can unscrupulously plunder the basic technology of mankind. Don't tell me that your model has not been restricted. Tony Stark looked at him seriously. At this time, that's impossible. My intelligent optical brain comes from a mature technological world. People in that world are better than us at making them safer. Liang Yue replied with ease. According to the system's initial introduction, the intelligent brain Zia Wu comes from an advanced technology plane. Since the technology level can be raised to a high level, it means that the social rules are extremely complete, including the control of artificial intelligence life. Otherwise, when he brought Zia Wu to reality, the entire network world would probably have been paralyzed within minutes. That's good. However, this still cannot solve its creative limitations, so you have already prepared the corresponding technological data, right? Similar to the previous that film spacesuit, This time it's about biological technology items. Okay, since you've already offered me the conditions, I've seen the list of experimental equipment and everything. Although the procedure is a bit troublesome, it's not a problem for me, so I agree. As expected then, it's time for me to raise the issue of remuneration. Speaking, Stark rubbed his hands subconsciously, returned to the bar and sat down. Looking at Liang Yue with anticipation and continuing, I want that iridium metal ingot you provided me last time. Iridium metal ingot? Liang Yue heard the words and tilted his head subconsciously, and had some guesses about the ideas of this dog tycoon. First of all, iridium is not a product of the real world. Liang Yue has it because of the existence of the system, while this metal itself comes from the world of Stardew Valley. Although there seems to be iridium metal in reality, the quantity is extremely rare, and it is still unknown whether the metal iridium in the world of Stardew Valley is the same thing. The reason why Liang Yue gave this metal to Stark for research last time was to find out the specific characteristics of this metal. But if I remember correctly, in addition to a piece of experimental material for testing, I also gave you a second iridium metal ingot as labor costs. So, 2 iridium metals are not enough for you? You need to know that the weight of that thing is not light, and also, you haven't given me the test report on this metal yet, Tony. Okay. I'll give you the report now. Jarvis, pull up the report on that iridium metal. After speaking, Stark looked towards him and gestured. Seeing this, Liang Yue immediately let Xiao Wu receive it. Then now, we have to talk about the price. 1 iridium metal? Impossible. The things you want are all valuable, kid, but those things at least have a price, and my iridium metal doesn't exist on Earth at all. I have the final say on how much it's worth. Okay, but you can't be too greedy. 1 metal ingot is definitely not enough. 1 is already a lot, Tony. I don't have much of those things in the first place. Chapter 433. Betty Ross, 2. That's the truth. Iridium ore is indeed quite scarce these days. Before I knew the specific properties of this metal, my whole family was using it as an everyday consumable with a toolbox from my world system, similar to magical alchemy. There's no need to worry about smelting or fusion. We just force it onto the mold now. Various iridium greatswords, dual blades, bows, shields, and even armor have become standard equipment for Liang Yue and the women. Naturally, the consumption is quite high. Converting that, it's 3,000 points for 20 iridium ingots. It seems like a lot, but it's not durable at all when you really start using it. Liang Yue currently has only 5,000 points left, and adding the unfinished system task, it's only 6,000 in total. These points definitely can't be spent recklessly after all, since the system shop can refresh good things like iridium ore and Zhou Bufton swordplay manual. It can also produce other things. Currently, with a further improvement of system permissions, Liang Yue's frequency of going to the Heavens Worlds has expanded from once a month to once every 3 months. During such a long time, he naturally has to keep some savings on hand for emergencies. Therefore, unless the system can give him a higher turn mission during this period, Liang Yue will definitely not act rashly. Therefore, in the current transaction with Tony Stark, he certainly can't be as extravagant as usual. Fortunately, he had a few iridium metal ingots left in his storage box, otherwise, this transaction might not have been completed. Finally, after a back and forth, heated negotiation between the two, under the observation and witnessing of Natasha, Pepper, and Betty, who arrived later, Liang Yue, at the cost of 2 iridium ingots, formally signed a transaction contract with Stark. Liang Yue, on the spot, took out 2 iridium ingots and slapped them on the table, much to the dog tycoon's eager anticipation. Stark, on the other hand, needs to send all kinds of instruments, equipment, and other items on the previous list to his manor within the next month. After all, although the things Xiao Wu needs are nothing to the wealthy and well-connected Stark group, the content is relatively complex and requires some procurement time. After that, Tony, as the host, although with a sullen face because he didn't reach the expected revenue target, still politely asked him to stay for a hearty lunch afterward. Liang Yue took Betty, whose eyes were like water, and left the Stark group. Before leaving, he also specifically asked for leave for her. The two strolled along the bustling commercial avenue of New York City for a while, purchased a few clothes, and finally wandered into a hotel. And then, it was thunder striking the earth, dry wood adding to the stove. Wildfires never die, they spring up again in the spring breeze. In short, the night passed unconsciously, perhaps because the battle was too fierce at that time, consuming too much energy, etc. Betty woke up from someone's arms at noon the next day. What is this? A tattoo? I remember this. It seems to be the character for Immortal, right? After just getting out of bed and lying back in the bathtub, Betty belatedly saw an unusual Chinese character symbol on her chest that was precisely the unique special imprint that Liang Yue had after practicing the Flying Thunder God technique. It is said to be directly imprinted on a person's soul, unless the caster it himself. Even Ibiro, who has changed countless bodies, has always been unable to get rid of the special imprint left by Yongde Mei. Yes, this character is pronounced Xian. Taking the opportunity to explain, Liang Yue at this time also used his fingers to show Betty the correct stroke order of this character. Did you secretly imprint it on me while I was asleep? It's not really tattooed, is it? Saying that, Betty rubbed it with her hand, and after realizing that it didn't work, she looked over with a bit of dissatisfaction. This thing is not tattooed, but its existence is more thorough than a tattoo. Seeing this, Liang Yue put this woman in his arms and smiled meaningfully. This isn't those strange spells from you Easterners, is it? Hearing this, Betty blinked her eyes subconsciously, and then asked with a face full of novelty almost, this is actually a kind of special imprint exclusive to me personally. As long as it's there, I can teleport to your side anytime, anywhere, to ensure your personal safety. Saying that, Liang Yue combed all of Betty's beautiful hair behind her head amidst her surprised expression, and then looked at her seriously and continued, in the coming time, crises of varying degrees will appear in various parts of the earth, and New York, where we are now, is the center of some crises. So, in order to better protect you, without your permission, I planted this imprint on you. I hope you can understand. After hearing his words, unexpectedly, there was no unwillingness or even disgust on Betty's face. After the initial surprise, a bit of sweetness emerged on this woman's face instead. However, Liang Yue had expected this in advance. After all, according to his observation, although Betty Ross has a strong father who is a military giant and will become the U.S. Secretary of State, and a more explosive and unreasonable ex-boyfriend in terms of personality, but in essence, she is a relatively passive person and lacks a sense of security. Since unexpectedly having a relationship with Liang Yue, Betty has almost instinctively approached, in order to find a reliable sense of security. So, after having this thing on me, our relationship has become closer now, right? Betty wrapped her arms around someone's neck at this time, looking at this overly handsome face close at hand. Yes. But I also have a way to make our relationship even closer. Looking at the woman who had already become a little emotional at this moment, Liang Yue also began to guide her, gradually revealing his hideous side closer. Is it like the maids in your house? Hearing this, a knowledgeable and delicate face, Betty's face also rarely showed a bit of playfulness. Cough cough. That, about a few in my house, the relationship between them and me is actually a bit more complicated than you think. Simply put, I brought them from other worlds. While answering, Liang Yue couldn't help but complain about Stark in his heart. You're really a pig teammate. Of course, it is also possible that Pepper revealed the information about his manner to Betty. The personalities of these two people surprisingly matched, although they haven't known each other for a long time, but their relationship is now similar to that of best friends. Other worlds? So that's how it is. Can you often go to those other worlds? Almost. Are those worlds fun? I don't go there to play, but I did experience some customs and cultures that this world doesn't have. Then can I also experience those worlds after our relationship becomes closer? Yes. Chapter 434 Swordsmanship. Unexpectedly, although she knew that having a closer relationship with someone would bring so many benefits, and Betty herself also longed to see other worlds, in the end, this woman did not directly agree as Liang Yue had expected, but said that she needed to consider it for a while longer. Liang Yue didn't say much about this, and his heart was also calm anyway. It's only a matter of time. After spending some time with Miss Betty and having dinner with her at a high-end restaurant, Liang Yue went home by himself in the blink of an eye. Another 3 days passed. During this period, in addition to instructing Xiao Wu to leave a clone program in reality to pay special attention to Whiplash's information, he himself basically stayed in the Stronghold world cultivating, researching, running dungeons, and occasionally slipping away to cultivate various herbs and spiritual plants in a newly opened plantation to satisfy his farming desires. His life was very fulfilling. Level 30 Random Weapon Jar. From the DNF world, smashing it can randomly open up the weapons used by all known professions in the game world. After system improvement, the bottom line of its weapon level is whiteboard, and the upper limit is pink artifact. The use requirement is no professional restriction, and the weapon level is constant at level 30. The selling price is 500 points. Black Jade Regenerating Ointment. From the world of Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, a top-quality ointment in the low-level martial arts world. It has miraculous effects on reconnecting tendons and bones, with a medicinal formula attached. The selling price is 800 points. The above two are the newly refreshed products in the system. While recently it looks good, but unfortunately it doesn't inspire any desire to buy. Needless to say, the weapon jar, the level 30 weapon, is a bit too low for Liang Yue, although it will randomly add various attributes and even skills. But for him, the actual effect is not as good as iridium weapons at all. With Dark 2 as a treasure land for leveling up and experimenting, coupled with his own concentration on research and exploration, Liang Yue has also made considerable progress in the field of thunder, fire, and wood. Although I dare not say that I have achieved a stage victory, it is indeed becoming more and more like it. First of all, in terms of power, the current 3 attribute realm of thunder, fire, and wood has not produced much obvious progress, but the consumption of maintaining these realms has been greatly reduced. From the original 5-minute battery life when Liang Yue was at full power and the 3 realms coexisted, it has now been extended to a quarter of an hour, which is more than 15 minutes, even when no monsters are encountered. Even if the innate realm of thunder, fire, and wood is opened, it will basically not produce much consumption. Undoubtedly, this is definitely a huge improvement. It marks that his development in the realm has gradually embarked on the right track. Moreover, Liang Yue is also confident that he can extend the application time of his abilities again. Now he has found the correct direction for this path. Secondly, in terms of the application of the innate realm of thunder, fire, and wood, Liang Yue is no longer limited to the curve of defeating the enemy apart from the fixed thinking and conservative concepts in his mind at the beginning. Liang Yue is now trying to broaden his thinking and diverge to other aspects. For example, the transformation of the realm of thunder, fire, and wood in form. No one stipulates that the so-called realm must be spread out in the form of coverage to exert its power. Considering from the simplest level of antonyms, Liang Yue is now studying the application of compressing the form of the realm. Of course, regarding this, he is still only staying at the most elementary stage. For example, after compressing any one of the 3 attribute realms of thunder, fire, and wood, temporarily apply it to the bullet, then shoot it out through the gun, dealing attribute damage beyond the limit distance of the realm in effect. It is similar to when the realm is opened. The additional effects of thunder-based bullets are manifested as bursting and paralysis, fire-based ones are explosion and burning, and wood-based ones are entanglement and absorption, etc. However, at this time, Liang Yue can only temporarily attach a single attribute. If multiple attributes are mixed, it is easy to cause incompatibility such as barrel explosions. Fortunately, in the ultimate goal that Liang Yue has planned for himself, it is not actually to use his thunder, fire, and wood as a means of enchantment. This is just a stage result of his research. Accurately speaking, these are just byproducts of the experimental process. Liang Yue's real purpose is to create his own thunder magic by constantly compressing and trying to change the arrangement structure, just like the various portable Wuta Divine Thunder, Yimu Divine Thunder, Taiyi Divine Thunder, Nine Heavens Divine Thunder, Chaos Divine Thunder, etc. in the cultivation techniques. Of course, for Liang Yue today, this goal is definitely a bit high, but it does not prevent him from working hard in this direction. Another thing worth mentioning is that Liang Yue's research and exploration in the realm is not only focused on the direction of thunder, fire, and wood. The sword energy is also worth developing, even because Liang Yue, as a commonly used means of dealing with enemies in the previous worlds, has more practical operations in terms of sword energy. The development of this field seems to be more handy than thunder, fire, and wood. As for the research on this sword domain, Liang Yue almost completely copied the advanced ideas of a certain single-player game in the original world: sword control technique, myriad swords technique, heavenly sword, sword god. Although in the beginning, the application of sword energy and sword control seemed to have embarked on 2 different forks, but if he only follows the idea of imitation for development, he can indeed follow a set of skill advancement processes of the Shu Mountain sword control technique, and this imitation process is also a process of improvement and improvement. Under analogy, Liang Yue can now even achieve the level of controlling the sword with his mind, although because it is a wild way, he cannot temporarily achieve the exaggerated speed of Shu Mountain sword control technique, where the sword intent is transparent and the sword is as fast as the thought. But for Liang Yue at this time, this is already a considerable improvement. Report, Master. Just 4 hours ago, Ivan Vanko was rescued. He is now on a private plane from Morocco to New York. He is currently in the RU-00260 workshop of Hammer Industries, a military industry company. The person who rescued him is Justin Hammer, the president of the group. Because he was afraid of delaying the progress of the system task, Liang Yue spent most of his time in the stronghold world these days, but he basically returned to reality several times a day. Naturally, It was to listen to the intelligence reports of the intelligent brain Xiao Wu. He's already in New York? There must be some other forces involved behind the rescue of Ivan Vanko, right? Looking at Ivan Vanko on the light curtain, who had finished the ridiculous welcome banquet and was now being taken to the RU-00260 workshop, Liang Yue said meaningfully, report, Master. According to Xiao Wu's understanding, the forces rescuing Ivan Vanko this time are mainly concentrated in the United States, and some people in the political and military circles have intervened among them. There are also several people suspected to be members of the secret organization Hydra. Well, then, regarding the technology of the arc reactor, can Xiao Wu obtain complete information from the other party's research and development process? In fact, Liang Yue has no interest in the dirty connection between Whiplash and Hammer Industries, or their connection with Hydra. What he is concerned about from beginning to end is only the technology itself. If he can obtain the technical information of the arc reactor quietly without bloodshed, he will naturally be happy to see it happen. Report, Master. Although the other party's rescue behavior is an illegal operation, invading Hammer Industries and obtaining related technologies are not the same thing. Therefore, Xiao Wu is currently not qualified to obtain the technology of the arc reactor through invasion. Sorry, Master. Liang Yue didn't care too much when he heard this. It's okay. Anyway, he's already in New York, so I'm not afraid he'll run away. It seems it's time to move my muscles and bones a bit. Chapter 435, Easy to Get. Midnight approached. New York City was still brightly lit at this hour. However, even in the most developed cities, there are always corners that the light cannot reach. It was under these circumstances that Liang Yue drew a circle in the void and stepped onto the rooftop of Hammer Industries. Looking around, the night air was filled with cold breezes, and the faint sound of sirens could occasionally be heard. Standing in the shadows of a high platform, Liang Yue silently injected spiritual power into his eyes, and the Hammer office building, dozens of stories below, instantly became transparent. The originally dazzling cyan green light flames were concealed by the facial disguise, revealing no sharpness or abnormality. Everything proceeded silently. Soon, in just 1 or 2 breaths, Liang Yue had already locked onto Ivan Vanko's location. Looking down below at Ivan Vanko, who was chewing on a toothpick and concentrating on typing on the keyboard late at night, the corners of Liang Yue's mouth curved slightly. In the next moment, his entire being instantly blurred. Then, like a phantom ghost, he slowly descended. The solid reinforced concrete walls offered no resistance whatsoever. This was one of the abilities awakened by the Tensigan in Liang Yue's previous Naruto world, intangibility. After using this ability, even space could be traversed smoothly, freely traveling between various adjacent alternate dimensions. Naturally, these small walls were no obstacle. Soon, he had passed through layers of ceilings and quietly arrived behind Ivan. The area in front of him was more like a semi-enclosed dark room than a regular room. Besides a thick iron door, there wasn't even a window. The interior layout also appeared very simple, or rather, concise. Apart from a well-configured computer, there was almost no decent furniture at this moment. Ivan Vanko was reclining on an office chair with his legs crossed, wholeheartedly immersed in the program development. In front of him, a pile of finished lunchboxes was placed in the waste paper basket at his feet, and a can of beer was placed not far from his hand. Ivan was completely unaware of Liang Yue's arrival. Before coming, Liang Yue had already instructed Xiao to cover all the surveillance facilities in the room as his exclusive intelligent optical brain. Xiao's functions themselves have some rigid restrictions, and cannot blatantly break the rules of law. But in fact, rules are something that has loopholes sometimes. How the various laws and regulations are written is one thing, but how they are interpreted is another. It's all about interests. Otherwise, how could the lawyer industry in the United States be so popular? The existence of the intelligent brain Xiao, in the final analysis, is to help Liang Yue better deal with some trivial matters in life, making his daily life more convenient. At this time, it cannot directly break through the framework of the law and copy back the programs and various data that Ivan is developing. But if Liang Yue himself comes forward and artificially adds a few extra steps to the originally simple and direct hacking action, Xiao is only responsible for a few of the segmented details. Then, all of this can work. For example, Liang Yue is now only asking Xiao to cover up the surrounding surveillance cameras, replacing them with footage from a few minutes ago. This behavior itself is not illegal, or rather, it is in a gray area. For example, when Liang Yue wants to copy technical data from Ivan's computer later, he can temporarily shield Xiao's intelligent management state and simply use it as a super storage disk. Then this matter itself will be regarded by Xiao as the personal behavior of Liang Yue, the host, and there is no supervision and accountability mechanism at all. For example, When Liang Yue interrogates Ivan later and obtains relevant information, Liang Yue is the one who breaks the law, not his intelligent optical brain, and afterwards, when he gets the technical data he wants, Xiao copies and replicates this information from someone's brain. The ownership of these things has already been changed to Liang Yue himself, so, in this whole process, it seems that only a few intermediate links have been added, but the original illegal operation has become feasible. Therefore, under such convenient conditions, with the cooperation of Liang Yue's powerful strength plus, with a relevant intervention of someone's soul interrogation talent derived from the Otsutsuki bloodline, everything proceeded silently. Half an hour later, Liang Yue returned to his manor with a circle. Not powerful enough. I originally wanted to have a gunfight or something, but as a result, I came back unknowingly. Ivan Vanko probably didn't notice anything at all. I also want to have a fight, but my strength really doesn't allow it. Back in his room, it took about 5 minutes. Liang Yue had just turned on the computer and looked at the hot news. Xiao had already sorted out the copied technical data. Then, Liang Yue submitted the task, and the system's prompt sound followed. Task rewards have been distributed, please pay attention to checking. According to the host's current real environment, the second stage system task technology core is specially issued, based on the arc reactor, applied to specific technological practice task requirements. Initially create technological tools or facilities with utilization value. Task rewards: 1 random technology-oriented lottery permission, 5,000 mall points. The task rewards will fluctuate depending on the technological content of the results submitted by the host. That is to say, 5,000 points is just the basic salary. Right, got it. After reading the task information sent by the system, Liang Yue immediately had a bottom line in his mind. However, this second stage task is a bit interesting. 1 ring interlocking with another. When we get to the back, won't you still ask me to develop a spaceship or something? It seems that always staying in one corner like this is not a good thing. I have to recruit people. Speaking of which, those Transformers or something, should they have quietly come to Earth by now? According to the timeline of the plot, Bumblebee and the others seem to have come during World War II. Looking at it this way, Megatron should have been frozen for nearly 100 years at the Hoover Dam. Thinking of this, Liang Yue's thoughts couldn't help but become active. In the past, he didn't seem to have much willingness to take care of the trivial matters in the real world. Apart from his classmates, family, and friends, he would hardly take the initiative to take on things. The plot moves forward, and he will move along with it. The current situation may have to change somewhat. After all, regarding the issue of technology research and development, he cannot only rely on Xiao, an intelligent optical brain. The current system task is only a beginning, and perhaps there will be more such things in the future. Therefore, Liang Yue needs to prepare for it early. Chapter 436 Punk Flying Sword. System: I want to draw a prize. In this system mission, besides the reward of 1,000 mall points, Liang Yue also received an extra draw. Unfortunately, this draw was limited to the field of technology, which seemed to be in line with the system mission of the second playthrough. If he could really get some good things from this draw, it should be helpful for future missions. It might even determine the future research direction of Xiao Wu. Soon, as Liang Yue's voice fell, a familiar prize wheel appeared in front of him. Start. After scanning the items above, this guy casually gave the order. It wasn't that he didn't care about the prizes above. After all, it was related to the needs of the subsequent missions, but Liang Yue himself really didn't want to rely too much on these external things. In a word, you can't just look at the appearance, you have to look at the background. Stop, Ling. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a civilian version mechanical skateboard in this technology-oriented draw. This item comes from an intermediate technology plane and belongs to gravity wave technology products. Using light wave power, it has a certain mechanical deformation ability and can realize aerial gliding to a certain extent. Skateboard. This result is neither good nor bad. Gravity wave technology, light wave power, etc. are indeed very powerful, but unfortunately, I can fly now, so I don't need it at all. After the draw ended, along with the appearance of this skateboard, a piece of information about this prize was also sent into his mind by the system. After roughly reading it, Liang Yue knew that his previous judgment was correct. Although it can realize self-suspension by virtue of the effect of gravity waves, without spending any energy. But no matter what, this thing is just a skateboard at most. It can only glide at a distance of less than 10 meters from the ground, and usually can only achieve static suspension between 5 and 30 centimeters. It will fall by itself if it exceeds the limit height. Speaking of which, this thing is just a skateboard, except that it doesn't need to touch the ground, and the maximum speed is limited to 80 kilometers per hour. That's right, it's just a civilian version after all. With it, there is no need to worry about falling to death. After a burst of muttering to himself, Liang Yue subconsciously scratched his temple, and then turned his attention to the skateboard in front of him. It has to be said that although this thing is just a skateboard, it is after all a product from an intermediate technology plane, and the shape alone is quite cool. Big pillars, same red and blue color scheme. Mechanical war style, different from all skateboard products on the market today, with sharp edges and corners, without a trace of streamlined design concept. If the shape of the mainstream skateboard on Earth today is compared to a Beetle car, then the one in front of you is like a fully armed military Hummer painted in red and blue. The two are not the same style and level of product at all. The jet flying board used by the supervillain Green Goblin in the Marvel world for daily flight is just a slag in front of it. In addition, according to the information Liang Yue obtained, the mechanical skateboard in front of him can be deformed. Moreover, it is a semi-intelligent product. Soon. Under Liang Yue's design and Xiao Wu's control, accompanied by a burst of exciting mechanical deformation sounds, the object in front of him suddenly changed from the original 2.5 meter long, 1 meter wide heavy-duty mechanical skateboard to a flying sword of more than 3 meters long. The flying sword after the transformation is still in a mechanical style, and the color is changed from the original red and blue to black and white under Liang Yue's guidance. At the junction of the hilt and the blade, a semi-hollow yin-yang fish is particularly eye-catching at first glance. It is simply a perfect combination of mechanical punk and Chinese Taoist culture. At this moment, looking at the flying sword quietly floating beside his feet, a hint of fiery color flashed in Liang Yue's eyes. Inadvertently, tisk, it's a pity. It's just a skateboard after all. Shaking his head regretfully, Liang Yue then handed over the control of this thing to his intelligent optical brain Xiao Wu. This skateboard should be able to research a lot of things, right? Of course, master. Whether it is from the design concept, deformation principle, production materials, color painting control, or its most important gravity wave concept principle, it is itself a very advanced scientific research direction. It is several levels higher than the mainstream technology level of the world where the master is now. Then I'll leave it to you. It doesn't matter if you disassemble it, but be careful not to break it. I'm going to collect it later, don't worry, master. Xiao Wu will not let you down. That's good. In fact, even if Xiao Wu accidentally broke this skateboard because of scientific research, it wouldn't be a big problem at the moment. When Liang Yue drew it from the turntable, this product was actually put on the shelves in the system wall synchronously. However, after all, it is a product from an intermediate technology plane, and the price is a bit expensive, costing a full 3,000 points to buy one. It is at the same price as 100 iridium ore stones. Needless to say, it is not a cost-effective deal for Liang Yue to spend 3,000 points to buy such a skateboard. He probably won't do such a stupid thing in his life. Therefore, after instructing Xiao Wu to continue to pay attention to Ivan Vank's information, Liang Yue flashed into the Stronghold world. Teacher Shizuka and the others have once again embarked on a copy trip, not to mention another, more radical leveling team. He hasn't seen a single person these days. Liang Yue suspects that senior sister Siko, Hinada and others have been staying in the dungeon since they successfully changed jobs last time and started the Dark 2 Nightmare difficulty. It seems that they are addicted to leveling up, but thinking about it, they will be able to go with me to experience in the next Heaven's world. With my current strength, the plane level should not be too low. This is feeling the pressure and wants to improve a wave in a surprise attack. Liang Yue, who has once again become a lonely man, is not in a hurry to go to the dungeon to level up at this time, but walks out of the dungeon cave and strolls in the small village. Different from the midnight of the outside world, the Stronghold world at this time is in a morning. The distant sun has jumped out of the mountain peaks, illuminating the morning mist, wantonly and ostentatiously releasing its energy under the sunshine. The small village at this time is full of singing birds and fragrant flowers, and the stream is gurgling, wandering among them. Liang Yue's mood is particularly relaxed. He casually took a handful of water from the fountain next to him and sent it into his mouth. The sweet and cool touch immediately poured him a spirit. Then, he continued on his way, unhurriedly came to the long-lost library tower. Chapter 437 Dazu Fist, 2. Casually walking in the spacious tower, Liang Yue's purpose here wasn't to read any divine skill manuals. Of course, he didn't have any truly outstanding divine skills to offer either. The ones currently on the shelves were basically outdated. However, Liang Yue came for these outdated items, things like the renowned 9 Yin Manual, 18 Dragon Subduing Palms, 9 Heavens Lightning Control True Scripture, and even the complete set of Taixun Scripture, hailed as the #1 divine skill in Jin Yuang's martial arts novels, weren't what he wanted. He was looking for the most basic manuals from various sects, the ones that every disciple could practice, the most common ones circulating in the martial world, even the tricks of the trade, for example, low-end martial arts like Mount Hua swordplay, Mount Song swordplay, Kwanzhong swordplay, Arhat fist, Tezu long fist, and even Five Tiger severing door saber were his targets. The reason was that recently, Liang Yue felt that his strength was steadily improving, and his research on domain-related spells was gradually getting on the right track. He also felt that his current path seemed a bit unstable, like a rootless duckweed, looking prosperous and colorful, but in fact, he had neglected the most fundamental martial arts foundation. Thinking back to when he was in the Naruto world, his martial arts true energy was sealed, and Liang Yue unconsciously took on the role of a spellcaster when fighting. Either that, or he would wield 2 kitchen knives, unleash a 20-meter-long sword aura, and play Dynasty Warriors on the battlefield. Fortunately, he still had the Bagua palm of Chinese martial arts as a foundation at that time. Now that he had returned to reality, with the help of the system's skill fusion, martial arts true energy and cultivation spiritual power were combined into one, and the two were no longer distinguished from each other. The level of energy had indeed increased, and its power, activity, and enhancement of spells and techniques had all greatly improved. Originally, Liang Yue didn't take his own foundation seriously. After all, he had truly fought his way out of the battlefield with a sword and a blade. In other words, his skills were built up little by little with human lives. If this foundation wasn't solid and couldn't be relied upon, then what in this world could be relied upon? Unfortunately, these perceptions were ultimately just Liang Yue's wishful thinking. The reason why the foundation is called the foundation is that it is the foundation for constructing high-rise buildings, the most basic roadbed. It requires constant practice and updates, continuous and persistent consolidation and improvement. It doesn't mean that certain techniques are finished after being practiced, and the data and levels on the panel are maxed out. Reality is not a game after all. Even for Liang Yue, it is still a process of endless learning and regression, especially now that he has just experienced the transformation of energy in his body. Various attributes, perceptions, and data need to be recalibrated. Liang Yue also felt a sense of realization, feeling that he should indeed strengthen his foundation and cultivation. In the end, it's still because I lack ready-made techniques. The ones I have on hand now are all from the martial worlds, and their level can't keep up anymore. I can only start from the most basic source. Looking down at the 5 elements fist in his hand, which he didn't know where he got it from, maybe a collection shelf from the Yuan or Qing dynasty. Anyway, he hadn't practiced this fist technique before. For a time, Liang Yue became indiscriminate, grabbing a book and eagerly flipping through it. Then starting tomorrow, I'll add 2 hours of basic techniques every day. I can't be like before, always busy with dungeons and only thinking about divine powers and secret techniques. The foundation is indeed something that needs to be valued. By the way, didn't I also draw a special technique called Great Hammer Fist before? That was a good thing I got after spending a precious unlimited level lottery draw. After a little familiarity, he began to practice it vividly and got on the right track. As for why he gave up continuing to practice this inheritance, there was no way. This Great Hammer Fist was different from the mainstream martial arts system in the current heavens and worlds. Although there were also exclusive Danshin energies such as internal energy and internal power, what it emphasized was the development and application of the human body. What it mainly targeted was the development of human tissues and organs such as the lumbar spine, trunk, muscles, fascia, bones, internal organs, and even the brain. It seemed very incompatible with the acquired, innate, and foundation building realms in the mainstream system, especially when Liang Yue advanced to the innate realm. The training ideas of this inheritance even had some structural deviations from his understanding of martial arts at that time. The two were even unable to be compatible in terms of internal energy mental methods, and they could not coexist at all. Helpless, Liang Yue had to give up. But now, some changes have occurred again, and the spiritual power after skill fusion seems to have signs of connecting and overlapping with this Great Hammer Fist. Moreover, the inheritance of this Great Hammer Fist is a complete protagonist-level technique. In addition to the components of fists, feet, lightness skills, and internal energy, it also involves a large number of body refining, brain domain development, and other branch parts with a certain fantasy level. This is undoubtedly the most precious thing for Liang Yue at this time, and it has great reference significance. Let's get back to the topic. Half a month has passed, Liang Yue's spring break has ended, and he has now returned to campus life. He has also been paying attention to the follow-up plot of Iron Man 2. It's just that technological research and development is not a dinner party. and if you add the production work of the assembly line workshop, it is even more of a time-consuming project at this time. Ivan Vanko is still busy coding in Hammer Industries occasionally. He has to act as a skilled technician and personally make a few arc reactors, which can be said to be busy, working in 2 shifts day and night. But when he really completes the preparations, implements his revenge plan, and troubles Tony, he will have to wait until next month. Liang Yue has no intention of inexplicably solving this villain role who has not yet launched his plan in advance. Even if he weren't friends with Tony, he wouldn't plan to take care of this matter. In addition, a batch of cutting-edge experimental instruments, equipment, precision processing machines, and other items that Liang Yue exchanged from Stark Group have also been gradually completed during this period now. They have all been piled up by Liang Yue in the huge basement of his manor, and the intelligent brain Xiao is conducting various experiments and technical deductions day and night during the process. Liang Yue also ran to see it a few times and felt that the scientific research progress was good. At least, Xiao is now able to manufacture various large, medium, and small arc reactors in small batches. Thanks to this, the small village in the Stronghold world has finally entered the era of proper electricity. Chapter 438 Sam and Chapter X27, S First Car. Hey buddy, you know what? Your book, A Song of Ice and Fire, is on the North American bestseller list again, and it's pretty high up, of course, I know. The publisher already called me about the second book's release. Didn't you finish writing that book already? Yeah, I already handed it all over to the publisher. Some time ago, the sales of the first book started to decline, so they proactively put the second one on the market. The goal was to boost the heat again. Now, not only has the second book made it onto the bestseller list, but even the sales of the first book have been revitalized. Oh, those greedy capitalists. I knew it. They always play these psychological tricks. Oh, just business. People call this sales tactic squeezing toothpaste. It's quite similar. Hey, you know what? I'm finally getting my first car. Oh? What kind of car do you want to buy? It depends on what my dad says. He agreed to buy me a car, but he also set some conditions. In the classroom, the chemistry teacher behind the teaching desk was wearing a pair of transparent sports glasses, holding a beaker filled with light blue liquid in his hand, carefully operating under the gaze of everyone. With his magnetic and passionate speech, he suddenly poured the liquid in his hand into another glass container with a whoosh. A large amount of foam immediately rushed out of the cup, and the momentum was really not small, directly hitting the ceiling of the classroom. Seeing this, the students opposite were also very excited, cheers and screams rising one after another. However, Liang Yue was not interested in this at all. Instead, he paid more attention to the information revealed by Sam, who was behind him in the chat. The reason need not be said. Sam's first car itself carried a lot of weight, and the unfolding drama that came with it was worth Liang Yue's investment of more energy. As for the topic of the first car in life, Peter on the other side was also very interested. He was originally distracted by secretly looking at Gwen, but he also joined the discussion. But if to say that the reverse research on Megatron supports the main structure of the human technology research and development field, it is somewhat possible. Speaking of, I should also find a chance to get my own transformer, right, at that time, whether it's for daily commuting or reverse scientific research, it seems to have considerable value. Then, should I directly capture a wild transformer, or use the power of the Allspark to create one? If it is to be created, those newly born transformers seem to be born into the Decepticon camp. In the case with Sam's introduction, Liang Yue quickly fell into his own thoughts and divergent thinking, from the first transformer, to the silicon-based biological research team, from his own technology empire, to leading humans to fly out of the Earth and into the universe. In short, in this short period of time, this guy thought a lot. Hey Liang Yue, are you listening? Sam behind him seemed to have noticed someone's wandering eyes, so he pushed him a little, dissatisfied. Of course. You just said that your dad needs you to hand in $2,000 for the car purchase, and get 3 A's in the final exam with his physical fitness far superior to ordinary people. Although Liang Yue himself was distracted, he still had a good recording ability for the content he heard in his ears. Although he was just listening with peripheral vision, it's 2 A's. Xiaotongzhuo Yamamoto Nazi, who was trying to pretend to be listening to the class, suddenly interjected to remind him at this time it doesn't matter. Anyway, all my subjects are A's. Liang Yue spread his hands to several people with an indifferent expression. Xiaotongzhuo heard the words, and suddenly smiled with a face full of joy. A pair of eyes bent into the shape of crescent moons, and Sam, as the person involved, immediately turned black. The reason is naturally because his grades are not good. If Sam's grades could barely be considered ahead in the original school, then after transferring to New York, this guy has completely fallen into the ranks of poor students after all. What Sam has to face now is no longer the mediocre high school students who were cultivated by happy education in those American public schools at this time. The international class where everyone is located is a true collection of outstanding peers from all over the world. Even Liang Yue did not dare to say that he could steadily win the first place in the class without earnestly putting in effort. At that time, Sam was selected to become a glorious transfer student in this class, probably only because of the ethereal protagonist halo on his body. How are you going to solve the problem of those two A's, buddy? Looking at Sam, who had changed from a face full of excitement to scratching his head at this time, Peter, as a tablemate, asked a little inappropriately, regarding grades, I can only rely on you guys, Peter, Liang Yue, Nazi, and Gwen. After thinking for a while, Sam suddenly raised his head with a serious face, glanced at several people, and then swore decisively, for the sake of short-term life ideals, as my best friend, I need your help now. Not much, just enough to get 2 courses 2A. I think this should not be difficult. In addition to learning, don't we still have some subjects, such as extracurricular practice? Liang Yue heard the words, gestured twice at random. That's what I mean, buddy. After listening to his words, Sam suddenly lowered his body, with a trace of animalistic fire in his eyes. This is no problem, but what about the $2,000? Peter asked along. At this time, as a scholar and a poor person, Little Spider is obviously more concerned about the issue of money. In order to solve the original predicament, in the original plot, he seemed to have also worked as a reporter for a newspaper, and then used his identity advantage as Spider-Man to constantly sell some personal image photos. But now it is not necessarily the case, because Liang Yue intends to recruit him not only because of his superhero status, but most importantly, Peter's talent in biological research coincides with his system mission. I just don't know if it will catch up. Regarding the issue of money, I already have a plan. I originally had some savings in my account. During the previous spring break, my parents gave me another sum of money. However, because of Liang Yue, most of it was saved. In addition, I also inherited a legacy from my great-great-grandfather. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439. Get in touch? The so-called inheritance that Sam mentioned was naturally not ready-made US dollars, or gold, silver, antiques, or anything like that, but some posthumous belongings of his great-great-grandfather. For example, maps, telescopes, sextants, and glasses worn during his nautical adventures. Among them, the coordinates of the Allsparks crash site were reflected on the lenses of the glasses. Liang Yue was naturally aware of this. However, he had no intention of seizing Sam's protagonist's good fortune at this time anyway. This simpleton is already in New York, and he has already brought those properties over, yes, during the latter half of the previous spring break, after hearing that his first car was finally settled. Sam hurriedly flew back to Los Angeles from New York. As a result, after arriving home, his unreliable father informed him of the details and made an agreement with him for $2,000 in 2As. In order to solve the funding problem, Sam had no choice but to bring all of his great-great-grandfather's property with him, and then impatiently put them all on a second-hand trading website to ensure the safety of the property. The current location of these items is in Liang Yue's school district apartment. As such, according to the Transformers' behavioral logic in the original plot, Bumblebee has most likely already come to New York with Sam, although, due to the change of location, Bumblebee may not become Sam's car again, or rather, the two will not meet in the second-hand car market. But as long as the glasses are there, the connection between them will not be broken. It seems that in the near future, I need to add another key observation. Target Transformers. I remember in the plot of the first movie, one of Optimus's team members died at the hands of Megatron, right? What was that guy's name? At this time, Liang Yue was absent-mindedly staring blankly at the teacher across the classroom, who was leaving with a textbook. While pondering the specific details of this matter in his heart with some boredom, he didn't even notice that everyone in the classroom had begun to get up and leave. Hey buddy, it's lunchtime. Sam pushed Liang Yue from behind. What's wrong, Liang Yue? You seem a little out of it today. Peter carried his school bag and looked at him with a full of energy and confidence, just thinking about something. But it's you, Peter. You seem to have become a little different these days because of Sam's sake. These two Spider-Men, who originally existed in different timelines, have now unexpectedly completed their advancement and exist in the world before them after suddenly obtaining powerful strength. Their original life trajectories have also changed accordingly almost without prior consultation. Both of them chose to become wild heroes, taking on the responsibility of volunteer police officers, haunting the urban jungle under the night every morning. Liang Yue can receive a lot of video records from the intelligent brain Xiao Wu of these two going out to do heroic deeds last night. Moreover, perhaps because the origin of their own power is of the same origin, Peter and Gwen, although they have not yet formally confessed to each other with their true faces but in their hearts, they probably already have some guesses about each other, and Liang Yue did not rashly intervene in this. He didn't point out their identities in person, nor did he directly pull them into the group because this is the fate between the two of them. And it would be a bit awkward if you were to intervene. Soon after lunch, the afternoon classes were over. In a blink of an eye, Liang Yue went to his kendo club for a turn, and after only exchanging a few words with some familiar people, he turned and left. I don't know how that little girl Elizabeth is doing now. It's been almost 3 months since I heard from her. Right after looking at the empty VIP activity room next door, someone who missed her a little made a decision in his heart. I'll go to the New York Sanctum again later, and ask Strange to help me send a message and some gifts him. I can also buy her a mobile phone by the way. That way, it will be easier to contact each other in the future. But what gift should I send? Magic side. It's a pity that the mall hasn't refreshed any good things recently. 2 bottles of ancient fruit wine can be taken. Forget about spiritual fruits and herbs. The batch in the base world has just been planted not long ago, and besides, she may not need them. Dragon break / magic scroll. No, this thing can't be spread out even more. That little girl is not my person yet. Why not send some more fruits? Famine series fruit crops can barely be regarded as magical side products. Before, I seem to have bought a sapphire. It's ice type. That's right. Speaking of magic gems, doesn't Miami no Iwado Space already have a lot of magic crystal raw materials piled up? Why not make a magic wand for that little girl? Hey, you over there, kid. Hey. Get over here. Just as Liang Yue was thinking about contacting his girlfriend along the way, he unknowingly walked out of the school gate when a slightly harsh voice suddenly sounded in his ear. Looking up, he saw 6 or 7 men gathered furtively in the shade of trees not far away. Among them were middle-aged men with sloppy appearances, strong builds, and tattoos on their hands, as well as students of about his age. Liang Yue looked at a few of them and seemed a little familiar. It seems like he had beaten them up before in their school's cafeteria at this time. These people were staring at him with ill intentions and waved for him to come over. Liang Yue was stunned at first, then the corners of his mouth slowly curved up. And then he really walked over slowly. Yellow-skinned monkey, I heard you wrote a book and made a lot of money recently. The leading middle-aged man took the lead at this time, and came over with a strong smell of smoke. He put his arm around his neck, and then, while threatening in a low voice, he took Liang Yue across the road. After a while, under the embrace of these people, he turned into a narrow alley. Then, after about 5 minutes, Liang Yue came out leisurely, whistling, with a refreshed look on his face. Unexpectedly, when he just emerged from the alley and swept his gaze casually, he actually found Peter, Sam, and Gwen running across the road. It seemed that they were coming towards him. Looking at the worried and restless expressions on the faces of several people, Liang Yue couldn't help but feel a warmth in his heart. Probably a passing classmate reported the news, right? Chapter 440 Marrow Cleansing Pill. Liang Yue, are you alright? Unexpectedly, among the classmates who rushed over, there were Peter and Gwen, 2 newly acquired superhumans with spider mutation abilities. But the first to rush across the road and reach Liang Yue's side was his deskmate, Yamamoto Neko. It seems that besides being closer and arriving earlier, this girl's background is also not simple. There's no energy substance in her body, her physical fitness is probably better than a professional athlete's, and her breathing rhythm has traces of some kind of regularity when she runs. It seems she has practiced some special inheritance. Although Sam in the back was a bit weak, his running style was very fierce, charging straight through the traffic. Are you okay, Liang Yue? I heard from a classmate that you were taken off campus by some gangsters. Seeing Liang Yue's calm and composed appearance, Peter's anxious face immediately relaxed. In comparison, Gwen seemed to trust him even more, only glancing at Liang Yue before shifting her attention to the alley behind him. Where are those people? Did you take care of them? It seems I've been a bit high profile lately. Even the old gangsters outside of school know that I've made some money recently. Saying that, Liang Yue spread his hands and gestured towards the slightly dark alley behind him. The group walked a few steps quickly, turned a corner, and were immediately startled by the scene inside. Under the setting sun, The previous few people were lying upside down in a pile of garbage, unconscious. Most of them were directly stuffed headfirst into the trash cans by Liang Yue, and those who couldn't fit looked even more miserable. Their faces were all slapped into a dark purple color, and the welts were swollen. A most miserable one was the middle-aged man from before. At this time, the guy's mouth was full of yellow teeth, scattered all over the ground. The arm that had grabbed Liang Yue's was twisted into a pretzel, like an unpruned tree branch, resting at an awkward angle on a pile of waste paper boxes. Are they okay? Looking at the miserable fate of the gangsters opposite, Sam swallowed involuntarily and asked, not a big problem, actually, except for that middle-aged man. The others were just slapped a few times by me and passed out. The reason why Liang Yue didn't choose to hit them hard was mainly because these people, like him, were students of the same school. It wasn't that Liang Yue had any friendship with them, he just didn't want to cause trouble. If it was just a simple fight, it wouldn't be a big deal, but if it really reached the point of broken bones, whether Liang Yue, as an international student, could stay in the school would be questionable. At the very least, he would be called by the principal to Aunt Liu for questioning, and afterwards, he would have to pay compensation and write a self-criticism. Liang Yue didn't care about the medical expenses, but the procedure was troublesome. If it were a different time and place, not at the school gate, he would be happy to give the other party a lesson in life. What are you going to do? As a police family member, Gwen frowned subconsciously, seemingly already planning how to use her connections to clean up the mess. Don't worry, before you came, I already called 2 ambulances for them. I'm using that middle-aged gangster's phone. After speaking, Liang Yue waved his hand in the strange gazes of the others and led them away from the scene of the crime. As for whether the police would come to him afterwards, Liang Yue wasn't too worried. In fact, at the first moment of the incident, the AI Xiao had already started recording, so, even with the testimony of the people behind him, strictly speaking, Liang Yue was also a victim, and in the end, it would just be a reconciliation. As for whether that middle-aged gangster would be relentless and use his connections to come and cause him trouble, Liang Yue expressed his welcome to this marrow-cleansing pill from a certain Xiangsha world. After taking it, it can remove impurities in the body, reshape bones to a certain extent, and improve the user's physical talent. The selling price is 1,000 points. Soon, another 3 days passed. A product that Liang Yue quite liked was finally refreshed in the system store. Although judging from the selling price, the effect of this marrow cleansing pill should not be outstanding, he still couldn't help but buy one. After all, this is a product from the Xiangsha world, which is generally one or even several levels higher than the martial arts world that Liang Yue had experienced before. A marrow cleansing pill with such a history can often solve many problems for him. For example, if Betty were to join his Lao Liang family, she would inevitably face a dilemma that is, at nearly 30 years old, her body has already been shaped, and the initial stage of cultivation will become somewhat difficult, just like Takashiro Yuriko. Although she can also reshape her bones by eating spiritual medicine, the several kinds of spiritual medicine that Liang Yue has on hand are not specifically used for this. Whether it is Earth spiritual milk, Kunlun spiritual peach, or Lingshu, they are all spiritual objects used to consolidate cultivation and break through the shackles of the realm. It is a bit of a waste to eat them directly. As for the other spiritual medicines and fruits that came out of the spiritual plant bag, they have not yet grown into useful materials, and it may be because of their own biological level. Even with the blessing of the special world rules of the stronghold world, they still grow slowly. The current marrow cleansing pill is undoubtedly a good thing that truly treats the symptoms. Facts have proved that Liang Yue had simplified the previous matter. Just as he had prepared a gift for Elizabeth and was planning to go to the New York temple after school to send it out, the long-awaited police finally came to him. Perhaps because of Gwen's relationship, the visiting police officers were quite polite to him. They didn't break down the door directly and arrest him in the classroom, but waited outside the school gate. Liang Yue took the initiative to get into the police car accompanied by Gwen, and the person in charge of driving seemed to be Gwen's father, George. Stacy, you were a bit heavy-handed this time, kid. Although I don't like that little gangster very much, he still enjoys basic rights. This time, the other party hired a troublesome lawyer through his gang behind him. It looks like they want to get a lot of money from you on the way. Gwen's father looked at him in the rearview mirror for a while, and seemed to know him very well in his conversation, but Liang Yue was also very sure that he didn't seem to have met the other party, let alone visited Gwen's house, so, the situation is already very clear. This New York police commissioner should have investigated him, or rather, because of some of his previous actions, Liang Yue should already be on the police's radar. That's more like it. Chapter 441 Stark and Chapter X27, S Lawyers. Regarding the matter of a middle-aged thug hiring a lawyer to sue him, Liang Yue naturally didn't care after all. Lawsuits in America are really about connections, money, and patience, especially in cases like his current one. Firstly, Liang Yue naturally had the law on his side. His problem was using excessive force during the resistance. The opposing lawyer would obviously use this as a basis to constantly attack and smear him when appropriate. Liang Yue believed the other side might even use the power of public opinion to sway the situation, but in the end, both sides would definitely be testing each other's patience. Cases like this often take a year or more, although Liang Yue himself didn't care. He had anticipated this. In a moment of wandering thoughts to eliminate these unnecessary troubles as soon as possible, he had prepared a second plan. Uncle Stacy, could I ask which gang that guy belongs to specifically? Looking at the pair of eyes in the rearview mirror that were observing him out of the corner of their eyes, Liang Yue asked somewhat inappropriately. At the same time, he had already instructed the intelligent AI, Xiao Wu, to search for the other party's information as soon as possible. Why are you asking that? Shouldn't you be contacting a lawyer as soon as possible? Chief Stacy heard this and replied unhurriedly, with a hint of scrutiny in his eyes. Okay, I don't know much about lawyers, but I have a friend who should be very good at it. Seeing the other party's slightly wary look, Liang Yue temporarily extinguished the idea of getting information from the chief. Obviously, Chief Stacy was more wary of him than of the current case, so Liang Yue stopped talking nonsense with a flip of his sleeve. His phone, which had long been replaced by the intelligent AI Xiao Wu, suddenly appeared in his palm. After pretending to operate it for a few moments, he found Stark's number. This was Tony Stark's private contact information, only open to those who had a relationship with him, not the kind of public account that required an appointment. Therefore, the call was connected after a moment. Hello, Tony. Oh, look who it is. You rarely call me kid. What's the matter? I'm facing a lawsuit, so I'd like to borrow your legal team. What lawsuit? Did you use your AI to steal someone else's technology? Also, why can't I see you? Give me a video, kid. I'm in a police car right now. Tony, is that so? But it doesn't matter. You should boldly show off good things. This is America. As for the police, I'm very familiar with their chief. I guarantee they won't talk nonsense. Hearing this, Liang Yue rolled his eyes subconsciously, feeling the gazes of everyone in the car, but he didn't refuse Stark's suggestion anyway. He really hadn't been able to take his intelligent AI from him, so, with a thought, Xiao Wu took over the call. Immediately afterward, a virtual light screen popped out from Liang Yue's bracelet. Oh, let me see. Look at this lineup. A special bulletproof armored car, 8 SWAT officers armed to the teeth, and the old guy driving is a bit of an eyesore. If I'm not mistaken, isn't that our New York police chief Stacy? That's my daughter, Mr. Stark speaking. Chief Stacy had quickly stopped the car on the side of the road, switched another police officer to the driver's seat, and then opened the door and got out, before getting back into the car and sitting opposite Liang Yue. The movements were very efficient too. Oh, you must be Gwen, right? Yes. Hello, Mr. Stark. Call me Uncle. Uncle Stark, I heard you went to Osborne Group for an internship some time ago. Why didn't you come to Stark? You know, whether it's in technology research and development or corporate image, Stark is far superior to Osborne, and I heard that they have recently fallen into a management crisis within the board of directors, and even Osborne himself has been kicked out of the board. Oh, is that so? Actually, regarding the internship at Osborne, I'm just purely interested in biotechnology field. Then you should go to the kid next to you. I heard that he has been doing research in this area recently. Saying that, Stark picked up his glass and poured a mouthful of whiskey into his mouth, and then finally looked at Liang Yue again. How is your research going? With AI helping you deduce, don't tell me you still have no results. I can mass produce arc reactors now. Liang Yue grinned at the big spender on the light screen. PFFT. Hearing this, Stark spat out the wine in his mouth, and then looked at him with a displeased expression. Don't tell me you took the technology for the reactor from me. Remember Ivan Vinko? Liang Yue smiled smugly. I heard that he died in a Moroccan prison some time ago. What did he tell you about the arc reactor technology in a dream? Hearing Liang Yue's words, Stark's expression suddenly began to flicker. He's not dead. He was rescued by people from your America and is now busy researching a new generation of Iron Man armor at Hammer Industries, so his revenge plan against you, there should still be a second phase. Mr. Tony. Liang Yue didn't hide anything about this. After all, it would happen sooner or later. After learning about this in advance, Stark was obviously silent for a moment, then took a deep breath, waved his hand, and turned the perspective to the opposite side again. Let's not talk about this for now. Can you tell me what this kid did? Chief Stacy, a thug was extorting him at the school gate, and then he was beaten up. That's it? This kind of thing. Could it be that the thug was seriously injured, bruises, soft tissue damage, internal organ concussion. The most serious is a comminuted fracture of one arm. The doctor said that even if it is barely healed, he will never be able to lift more than 5 kilograms of items. Oh, so, how do you want to solve it, Liang Yue? It doesn't matter to pay some money, it's fine if the problem can be solved once and for all. Okay. My legal team will arrive at the police station immediately. As for you, Chief Stacy, I think he doesn't need to go to the police station anymore, right? Okay, as long as you are responsible for taking over, I can send him back to school now. Then let's do it that way. After saying that, the police officer in the driver's seat also restarted the police car very vigilantly and drove towards the school. And Stark turned the perspective back to Liang Yue again. Now that the matter is resolved, as a reward, I would like to visit your laboratory at home in a few days and have a meal. Is that okay? No problem. Chapter 442 Gather the Troops. The reason for choosing to do this following normal legal procedures, engaging in lawsuits, lawyer battles, and subsequent compensation until the end of the confrontation, is actually a compromise deliberately made by Liang Yue. This is his compromise with the overall environment and system norms of the United States at the same time. This is also a statement. It is an attitude of his, as a superhuman, willing to abide by the norms and legal system of this country. After all, if you want to live in the United States, some rules on the surface must be followed, otherwise. Liang Yue's identity and his positioning in the eyes of some people will jump from an international exchange student with unstable factors to an existence equivalent to some extremists located in the central part of the world island. Liang Yue didn't want to be interrupted in his current life rhythm because of this trivial matter. He was very satisfied with his current living state and environment. Of course, as a good young man of the new era with mature thinking and logic, Liang Yue at this time naturally knew that blindly compromising was not a good thing. It would make people think you were really weak and easy to bully, especially in a situation like now, where he has been registered by all parties and labeled as a special person. Vaguely, Liang Yue could feel that he was becoming the target of attention from all parties in this incident. If he only showed his weakness and did not fight back to a certain extent, then what awaits Liang Yue next may be some more troublesome events. If you have to make a more vivid analogy of what he is facing now, using a line from a movie in his previous life would be, he was born a wolf, but he has the heart of a sheep, and this world is the world of wolves. Excessive compassion will only become a bargaining chip to be used by others. This is the rule in the steel jungle in front of you. Therefore, according to this logic, after expressing his willingness to compromise to the outside world, what Liang Yue urgently needs to do is a swift and clean counterattack, and in fact, he was already doing this. Girls, stop what you are doing for now. I have a task for you to do. After sending the previously prepared gift to the New York sanctum, Liang Yue drew a circle and returned home, and then went straight to the stronghold world through the villagers' communication platform. He contacted the girls who were in the dungeon, and called out these level-grinding fanatics who were gradually becoming obsessed. What's the matter, Chunkyu? We were just fighting the boss. After returning from the dungeon, Hinata, Siko and others, who were slightly panting, obviously still carried a trace of murderous aura that had not yet been contained. Even the bloodstains on little King Kong's body were still steaming fresh. I was wronged a little outside before, so now I need to get back the place. The reason why I called you out is just to show the outside world that we have a large number of people. After both teams in the dungeon returned, Liang Yue waved his hand and took them to the rest area next to him, and briefly talked about his experiences in the outside world these days. Just this little thing? You called us back. Do you know what we were doing before? Fighting Bao. After that, the nightmare difficulty can be cleared, the system can get a second reward. After listening to Liang Yue's narration, Nan Lixiang seemed very dissatisfied at this time. With her hands on her hips, shouting loudly at him after being slapped on the butt by Liang Yue, she began to calm down. The whole person became much more docile. So, regarding this matter, Liang Yue-kun wants to express an attitude to the outside world, right? Xiao Wu basically determined the situation and accurate location of the gang by reading the semi-public information of several security departments in New York City, plus the assistance of some regional monitoring proves. It is reported that this gang is called Black Ace. It sounds like something, but it's actually just a small gang composed of 100 people. The garrison is located in Brooklyn, where Liang Yue's school is located, and is not from the famous Hell's Kitchen. However, most of the members of this gang are from the Irish ethnic group. The gang has a total of 3 bars, 2 underground casinos, a drug ice factory, and some small gangsters scattered in various streets, responsible for selling various pockmarks, powder, and the like. The headquarters of this gang is located in a large bar called the Underground Temple. Soon, With the help of the Brooklyn map freshly printed by Liang Yue, everyone divided into several action teams and received a task location respectively as the first external action of the Liang family. Since the team was formed, the girls seemed particularly excited at this time. Even Jinxiang Sensei, who has always branded herself as a defender and uses a shield as her main weapon, is eager to go out and harvest. However, their enthusiasm was eventually suppressed by Liang Yue for the time being. Don't worry, let's take a shower first, and then act in the second half of the night. Why take a shower? Of course, it's to be more comfortable, and it's best not to take the bloodstains and debris you brought out of the dungeon. In addition, don't forget to use the transformation technique to disguise your appearance this time. We can't blatantly break other people's rules, right? Got it, Silverboss? Saya-chan, how is your team's dungeon progress? It's already in the third act of nightmare difficulty. Those monsters have indeed become much harder to fight. That's right. Originally, a single ice roller could solve a group, but now the team members need to cooperate with each other to move around, and they need to be more careful when facing some bosses and elite monsters. The output is okay, but I feel that the defense is a bit insufficient, especially in terms of elemental resistance. It is easy to suffer. Regarding this point, use the magic shield and legend more often. In addition, the monk's golden bell cover, the Taoist sacred armor, the trapping curse, and even the internal strength and martial arts can be used to defend against elemental attacks. Yes. Recently, we have gradually found a solution, but sometimes it will be a little flustered. Yes, sometimes my defensive aura is easy to switch wrong. Chunkyu, the monsters in the dungeon shouldn't be difficult for you, right? Well, monsters and the like can't get close to me at all. It's just that I have researched some insights on the innate realm of thunder, fire, and wood, as well as the sword realm recently. I plan to return to basic martial arts and prepare to consolidate it again. Wow, Xiao Zhao Ji. And I have already touched the threshold of the innate realm, and I don't know if we can comprehend that kind of innate realm. Regarding this aspect, I suggest you can start with a sword glow. After all, there are ready-made exercises to refer to. That's right, I can already use the sword glow quite skillfully. Really, Siko? When did this happen? Why haven't I heard of it before? Tell me quickly, how exactly did you do it? I haven't had a clue before. This is actually very simple. You just need to. In this way, Liang Yue and others exchanged their experiences while slowly walking towards the bathhouse in the village. After a while, a burst of laughter rose and fell in the spacious artificial hot spring. Chapter 443 Simple Attack Mode. At midnight, accompanied by several orange circles appearing in the air, Liang Yue and his group appeared in various corners of Brooklyn according to the task assignments planned beforehand. The group had already split into 6 smaller teams. The strength of each team member was relatively similar, with each team having a member of the Dungeon Maniacs as the leading force, leading the other members into the designated area at scheduled times except for teacher Shizuka. Although due to her personality and other reasons, this lady didn't like to take the initiative in attacking, and in usual team formations. She mostly took on logistical and supply work to the extent that even the allocation of skill points was mostly given to abilities that could provide assistance to the team, but she really couldn't help it. Her profession itself was too powerful. In addition, there was the extra reward of skills +3, which the system had granted earlier. Therefore, teacher Shizuka at this time was truly, seemingly harmless, but whoever ignored her would be extremely unlucky. This lady's daily monster fighting mode was to squat in the corner with a shield, then put on a halo, and ignore everyone, especially when dealing with these ordinary people who didn't have much resistance to speak of. It was truly a one-sided massacre. However, Halo-type skills themselves also have considerable limitations, just like in the game. In the wild, in addition to your own teammates, basically all biological individuals within the skill's range of effect would be included in the attack. Although this type of skill has been improved by the system, so that the paladin's offensive spiritual energy halo is no longer so mindless and has become controllable, but teacher Shizuka's side doesn't yet possess this ability for fine-tuned control. After all, apart from her personality, she had never encountered a situation in the Stronghold world where she needed to distinguish between attack targets, whether in the Diablo 2 dungeon or the wild monsters in Minecraft. Either she didn't activate spiritual energy, or she fully covered the area after activating it. This was the first time it was truly being applied to a complex real combat environment, and like the gang they were facing today, whether it was their bars or underground casinos, the industries themselves were public places with a large number of people. Therefore, in order to prevent this lady from accidentally injuring innocent people during combat, she could only be assigned to the ice drug factory with a relatively pure personnel attribute in this task assignment. Moreover, Nanlixiang, who had received professional military training, was specially sent to take care of teacher Shizuka almost without exception. The girls in several combat teams chose the mode of combat of descending from the sky, using the pickaxes from Minecraft to open a hole in the ceiling of the enemy's room, and then suppressing the fire. Faced with a room full of gang members and evil elements, they would directly throw in a steel ball grenade. If there were more complex personnel in the room, they would put on a silencer and snipe the targets in the room. The intelligence collected by the AI Zaiawa had covered every member of the gang and was uploaded to the villager platform as target images. Each time a gang member was killed, a red X would be marked on the target's head. On the other hand, Liang Yue didn't participate in this operation. The task he arranged for himself was to coordinate, dispatch uniformly, and provide emergency support when necessary, but judging from the current situation, everything was going smoothly, and there were no unexpected errors at this moment. He was sporting a slicked back hairstyle, wearing a blue tights, with a flashy red triangular brief on the outside, and a red cloak fluttering in the wind behind him. With his hands on his waist, he stood high on a 40-story building, overlooking the battle situation in the opposite underground palace bar. Compared with his original appearance, he seemed to be a whole circle larger in size. His body muscles were as solid as rock carvings, making people fearful, and the girls in the villager platform's picture had also changed their appearances. Some turned into burly men, charging through the crowd with 2 watermelon knives in their hands. Some turned into little dwarves, covered in thick long hair, round and chubby, jumping up and down, with bullets flying everywhere, making it impossible to tell their gender in order to avoid being seen through. Everyone didn't care about their image at this time and made themselves unrecognizable. In addition, Saya Takagi and Shizuka Mariko seemed more special because in the previous Christmas gift box lottery, they each got a set of animal cosplay costumes. One was an African honey badger, and the other was a black and white fat panda, which were already very non-mainstream at this time. The two just put on 2 sets of fashion, hung a mask on their faces, and stood in the crowd, and naturally no one could recognize them. Of course, Little King Kong was originally the most special one in this mission, but because its existence was too special, the powerful land warfare behemoth was not a species that should exist in this world, so Liang Yue left it by his side in order not to cause trouble for himself at this moment. This little guy was squatting in a corner of the roof, with his back to someone, sulking. However, this was also unavoidable. Although the overall combat power level of the current Marvel Comprehensive World was not very high, this boundary was very blurred at times. Liang Yue clearly remembered that in a certain comic plot of Marvel, there was a very evil cloning technology. Just by relying on a strand of Thor's hair, they created a Thor clone with an independent personality, and also possessed all of Thor's power. Although this situation was very nonsense, Liang Yue couldn't take the risk. Soon, in just a few minutes, the battles in various locations came to an end at the same time under the strong offensive of the girls. Only the bar outpost, as the Black Ace Gang's headquarters, was still relatively tenacious at this time. Several heads of the gang were hiding in a fully enclosed room behind a steel door with a thickness of 30 or 40 centimeters, breathing heavily. The team responsible for conquering this bar was led by the elven princess Arwen, supplemented by the combination of Xiao Zhao and Yang Bu, who at this time, the 3 had quickly arrived in front of this steel door. Yang Bu who cut off the nearby circuit connection with a knife, while Xiao Zhao had already taken out a small iron pickaxe and began to knock on the door. Arwen was holding a gun and arrows on the side, and a Valkyrie, who was emitting a bright golden light, was holding a steel gun and aimlessly circling around the 3. It seemed that the people inside shouldn't be able to hold on for long. However, what Liang Yue was more interested in was that, through the vision of the Tensigan, he seemed to see a very special person in that closed room. The appearance was no different from ordinary foreigners, with blonde hair and blue eyes, and a medium build, but in his body, Liang Yue felt a kind of cold power. In addition, there was something wrong with this person's bloodline, and there seemed to be a beast-like factor hidden. A vampire? Chapter 444 Gold Magic, Iron Thorn. Vampire. Looking at the creature in the room, a sense of surprise immediately arose in Liang Yue's heart. However, he wouldn't personally go down to deal with this thing. This was already the second time he had encountered this species before Elizabeth returned home. The 2 of them were on a date when this thing came looking for them, but it was solved by Liang Yue at the time. Now that he encountered it again, he didn't have much interest in deeply exploring this species. It is said that this group has a considerable influence on Earth, but its own weaknesses are too obvious, being completely countered by sunlight. Some powerful individuals may be able to find ways to resist sunlight, but it's not very meaningful. Aside from their decent physical qualities and recovery abilities, there is almost nothing commendable about them. So as long as you don't actively come looking for trouble with me, It doesn't matter how you rampage in America. Liang Yue didn't have any particular likes or dislikes towards the vampire species at this time, generally holding a neutral attitude in his heart. However, since it had bumped into him on the opposite side, it could only be considered bad luck for the other party. In the next moment, Yang Bu, who in his sight had already knocked out a 90-centimeter square passage on the thick alloy door, and then this little girl cleverly dodged to the side immediately afterward. As expected, dense firepower poured out from the secret room. Large swaths of bullets ricocheted off the alloy iron door with a clanging sound. Occasionally, a few hit the Valkyrie who was wandering around, but the effect was just that. Neither painful nor itchy. Xiao Zhao on the side had already pulled the pin of a steel ball hand grenade, quickly squatted down on the ground, and then threw it into the room from an upward angle with lightning speed. Boom! The grenade bounced off the wall and exploded directly in mid-air. Large pieces of small steel balls, like shimmering gray shadows, burst out in a radial pattern, instantly blasting in all directions. Most of them were directly embedded into the thick walls, while a small part, due to the angle, continued to perform irregular refractive movements within the secret room. The shrill sound of countless metal particles rapidly traversing the air was enough to make people change color. During the process, several HUDs of the Spades A gang, along with the furniture, furnishings, and alcohol in the room, were directly riddled with countless small steel balls. Even the vampire was no exception. Streams of blood mist flew everywhere as if it didn't cost anything. Only after all the movements in the room had settled down did Elwyn and the others pick up their iron picks, knock the solid alloy door in front of them empty, and slowly walk in. At this time, the vampire obviously hadn't completely died yet. His powerful recovery ability allowed the wounds on his body to begin to heal quickly. One by one, small steel balls were actually squeezed out of his body under the surging of muscles. However, the abnormal phenomenon that occurred on him naturally couldn't escape Xiao Zhao and Yang Bu, whose perception, let alone Alwyn's keen hearing system. Even at this time, there was no need for this elven princess to personally take action. The Valkyrie beside her, with not much intelligence, directly walked up and pierced his skull with a spear with a poof sound immediately afterward. This vampire turned into a ball of flying ashes and disappeared from this world. This is because the Valkyrie's attack can directly touch the target's health. After the health bar is cleared, the monster is directly judged to be dead according to the rules, or as it is the layer of radiance around her body playing a role. This is worth studying soon. After habitually scavenging the spoils of war in the field, Alwyn, Xiao Zhao, and Yang Bu who drew a circle and went home. Iron Thorn Art, a low-level universal metal-based magic from a certain fantasy world. It can form one or more iron thorns to attack by condensing metal elements in the air or under the earth. This magic, depending on the level of practice, has a certain degree of control, and can also control existing metal utensils and weapons to attack the target. Price: 1,000 points, including the previous sword Radiance. This is already the second time that such a cultivation technique secret book has appeared in the system's store. What is different from general commodities is that this type of scroll or book containing textual knowledge cannot be repeatedly purchased, because it is meaningless. Hand copying or printing can be used for unlimited copying. After the purchase, the products will be automatically removed from the shelves. As for the parchment paper in front of him containing the Iron Thorn Art, Liang Yue behaved quite cautiously. Although, in the system's description, this is only a low-level magic, which seems to have insufficient power. But sometimes, the lower the level of something, the more it represents a wide range of applications and strong practicality. Even a considerable part of low-level things can be added with a descriptive vocabulary of great development potential. So, although there are not many points left in his hand, Liang Yue still bought this product without hesitation. Soon, another 3 days passed. On this day, Liang Yue went to school as usual. Around noon, just after he had finished lunch and was wandering around the school with Sam, Gwen, and a few others, a phone call came in through the relay of the intelligent AI Xiao Wu. The caller was Tony Stark. Seeing this, Liang Yue took out his phone and answered the call. Is there something, Tony? I wanted to notify you that just now, the case against you has been settled. The other party accepted a compensation of $325,000 and promised not to sue you again for this matter. Oh, is that so? Then I'll transfer the money to you later. Why, you don't seem happy. This was originally a disaster for me. Okay, but even so, you can't break the promise you made to me before. Is it about visiting the laboratory in your house? Okay, when are you planning to come? How about this weekend? Today is already Friday. Are you saying tomorrow? How is it? No problem. Right, sure, then I'll prepare after I get home. That's right. In order to welcome the arrival of the great Mr. Stark, you should indeed prepare enough fanfare. At least go and clean the room first. Okay, I'll try my best. And it's settled. I'll arrive tomorrow morning, around 9 o'clock. Okay. Then see you then. Liang Yue was naturally not surprised at all that the case was over after all. Now that the Spades A gang had been wiped out by him, what confidence did that middle-aged gangster have to continue entangled with him, although the other party probably couldn't be sure that he was the one who wiped out the gang behind him. What was the point? The Stark Group's legal team was also not easy to mess with. If they really wanted to fight a protracted war, the one who would suffer in the end would definitely not be Liang Yue, ending the entanglement on him at the fastest speed, and then taking the money and flying away as soon as possible, was the smartest choice for the other party after all. After reaching middle age, especially for someone like him who mixes in gangs, who doesn't have a few enemies? Hey guys, are you busy tomorrow? After finishing the phone call, Liang Yue almost immediately turned his attention to the people around him, as for the purpose, it was naturally to instigate them to go to his house to do volunteer work. Do you have any plans? Peter looked at him at this time, and the eyes of the other people were also paying attention to Liang Yue. Tomorrow is the weekend. If you guys have nothing to do, how about coming to my house? Is it a dinner party? Or do you want to invite us to go camping? Sam heard the words and immediately became interested either way, but at least after entertaining Tony Stark seeing this, Liang Yue spread his hands towards a few people. Mr. Stark is going to your house tomorrow. Gwen looked at him with a different kind of smile on her face. Yes, to be precise, I need you to help me entertain him. I heard that you have a few maids at home. Little classmate Yamamoto Neko asked with her hands behind her back. They've gone on vacation recently, so that's what you're up to. Just help me with a favor, okay? Chapter 445 Realistic Transition. Although Tony Stark wasn't supposed to visit until tomorrow, Sam and the others were driven back to Liang Yue's manor that afternoon, except for Gwen. As the daughter of the New York police commissioner, and a socialite in American high society, she had been taught strict etiquette from a young age. The idea of casually spending the night at a male classmate's house simply didn't align with her long-held principles. Even with other classmates present, she couldn't get approval from Mr. and Mrs. Stacy. Of course, the truth was that only Commissioner Stacy was firmly opposed. Gwen herself, and even her mother, who chimed in during the phone call, expressed agreement with the idea of staying over. Liang Yue overheard this information while Gwen was on the phone, thanks to his extraordinary hearing. In any case, the matter was settled. He drove Peter, Sam, Yamamoto Neko, and Peter and Sam's club friends, the Chinese-American Fatty Ned and the slightly neurotic Leo, back home. Chinese-American Fatty Ned, from the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, the neurotic Leo, from Transformers 2, was Sam's college roommate who created the website in the dorm and actively recruited Sam. After a nearly 2-hour drive, it was just around sunset inside the manor. The lights were just coming on, and under the setting sun's glow, the castle seemed to be coated with a layer of elegant color. Like a serene classical painting. To make the most of this scenery, Liang Yue first took everyone on a brief tour before retrieving a large quantity of high-quality beef, lamb, chicken, fish, fruits, and vegetables from the kitchen, inviting them to join him for a barbecue feast. With the help of alcohol, everyone naturally enjoyed themselves, and the atmosphere was quite harmonious and lively. In the blink of an eye, it was the next morning. Liang Yue, unusually, didn't enter the stronghold world, but instead completed his meditation directly in his bedroom. Then, around 5 o'clock in the morning, as he was doing his morning exercises on the manor's lawn, his classmates were already getting out of bed one after another. They began to actively participate in their volunteer work preparations. Actually, there wasn't much to prepare. High-quality ingredients, eggs, desserts, noodles, and the like were readily available in the stronghold world, and once made, they would stay fresh forever. Various Chinese-style beef bone broth, consommé, braising sauces, and other necessary ingredients had been simmering for a long time, with the magma stove never going out. The ultimate purpose of Liang Yue inviting these classmates to his home was simply to temporarily add some life to his vast manor in the stronghold world. The women were still busy running dungeons, striving to increase their respective strengths. After 3 days of effort, Alwyn, Senior Siko, Nanko, Hinata, and Little Kong's main assault team had successfully completed the Nightmare difficulty dungeon in Diablo 2. Unexpectedly, after clearing the dungeon, the system rewards this time didn't need Liang Yue to draw on their behalf, as before, because this time, the reward didn't seem to be a lottery, but a more abstract form of transformation. Specifically, it made the original rigid skill expressions in the skill trees of Alwyn, Hinata, and others become more free. In the system's words, it was to transition their abilities from the game dungeon to the real Diablo 2 game system, although the power was considerable. It lacked freedom. After receiving this reward, when launching Jab again, It was no longer necessary to follow any fixed routines, still 3 consecutive jabs, but now Alwyn and the others could launch the skill in a more personalized way. Lying down, squatting, sliding, or even using it mid-air while jumping, was all possible. In addition, according to Nanko, when using some lower-level physical skills, she seemed to be able to purposefully attach her martial arts key and skills from other systems to the skill, forming a specific composite attack mode. This was definitely great news for everyone. Therefore, even though Hinata and the others had just cleared the nightmare difficulty dungeon a few days ago, they once again erupted with surging enthusiasm due to the addition of this system reward. Almost without stopping, they threw themselves into the hell difficulty level conquest. In comparison, the second team, consisting of the Takashiro mother and daughter, teacher Shizuka, Nana, Yang Yue, Zio Zhao, Rachel, and others, also felt ashamed and then courageous after learning about this reward sweeping away their previous negativity and laziness. They regrouped and threw themselves into another conquest with high spirits. In contrast, although Liang Yue also yearned for the realistic Diablo 2 skills, he wasn't in a hurry. His greatest wish at this time was to speed up the time and strive to digest and integrate a part of the development potential that had emerged in his current realm, in order to lay a solid foundation for the future. The second dungeon clearing reward from the system was more like an additional ability endowment for him. Liang Yue, who hadn't had time to digest his own achievements, would undoubtedly fall into an even more chaotic situation if he rashly opened up another series of abilities. Around 7 o'clock in the morning, Liang Yue finally finished his morning exercises, returned home covered in sweat. Peter, Sam, Ned, and Leo had already finished a hearty breakfast under the leadership of their deskmate, Yamamoto Neko. With the help of the rich ingredients that Liang Yue brought out from the stronghold world, the breakfast items seemed exceptionally diverse, such as tempura, vegetable miso soup, Japanese hot pot, sushi, etc., which looked very high-end. However, generally speaking, it was still the same routine as the meals usually made by Senior Siko, Yuriko, and others. Seeing this, Liang Yue, not wanting to disappoint his little diskmate's kindness, hurriedly went back to his room to take a shower, took care of his personal hygiene, and then rushed back to join Peter and the others, eagerly enjoying the delicacies on the table. Soon, amidst everyone's wolfing down and Neko's sense of accomplishment, the full table of Japanese cuisine was devoured, leaving only scattered soup and water. However, before the few people at the table, their bellies round from eating, had time to digest for a while, a faint honk of a car horn suddenly sounded in the distance in Liang Yue's ears. Immediately afterward, the intelligent butler, disguised as the AI Zhao Wu, announced the arrival of guests. Therefore, Liang Yue led everyone at the table, burping, to the door to greet them. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446, Visitors Flock to. That old man doesn't look like he's here to drop off his daughter. He looks more like he's here on vacation. From a distance, Liang Yue watched the vehicle driving towards him at a steady speed along the wide concrete road in front of the castle, and couldn't help but twitch his lips, muttering to himself with some dissatisfaction. With his extraordinary eyesight, Liang Yue could already clearly see the people inside the car through the windshield. Besides Gwen, who was expected, and George Stacy, who was responsible for bringing his daughter over, there was also a dignified and gentle woman and a curious little girl in the car. According to the information sent by the AI Zhao, Liang Yue was certain that the woman was Chief George's wife, Helen Stacy. In other words, Chief Stacy was not here for work this time. In addition, today was a weekend. So Liang Yue could roughly understand the other party's plan, that is, taking advantage of today's excuse, to visit his manor, and enjoy a short weekend vacation with his family. At the same time, Liang Yue also had reason to believe that Chief Stacy's arrival should not be just to accompany his daughter. At least, the purpose was not so simple. Welcome, Mr. Stacy, Mrs. Stacy, and this little beauty. Seeing the slightly apologetic and helpless look on Gwen's face, Liang Yue very understandingly took the initiative to hug her. I hope our family's arrival hasn't caused you any trouble, child. Chief George, who was not wearing a police uniform, came forward with a fatherly look of love on his face, and after very cunningly apologizing, he introduced the two beauties, one big and one small, to everyone. Then, Liang Yue's group of classmates introduced themselves one by one. In short, after a round of greetings, he invited the family into the living room. Nako and the others, and Gwen, quickly got into character, and successively took out a pile of snacks, refreshments, and various coffees and drinks from the kitchen to entertain the guests who knew. Less than 5 minutes later, another car arrived at the gate of the manor. According to the AI Xiao Yu's identification, the visitor was Aunt Liu and head nurse Lu Yao, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. It seems it's going to be lively at my house today. After instructing Xiao to open the door quickly, Liang Yue said something to the Stacy family, and then walked towards the door on his own. Compared to Chief George's slow arrival, Lu Yao's driving style was much wilder, rushing over from a distance with a whoosh. Of course, although the speed was not slow, the overall feeling was very stable, with smooth transitions and transformations, showing a sense of familiarity, a very contradictory feeling completely different from Jinxiang Sensei's style, who could drift at a 90-degree angle in the air. Aunt Liu's sister Lu Yao, welcome to visit. Why didn't you tell me in advance? I could have notified my mother. Compared to the Stacy family before, Liang Yue was much more casual when facing Aunt Liu and Lu Yao, and didn't deliberately show any politeness. My coming here this time is not a coincidence. Saying that, Aunt Liu stepped forward and gave him a light hug, and then continued in his ear on the previous armed police car. There weren't just ordinary police officers. Now many people in America probably already know that you have a research lab at home. After finishing, Aunt Liu took half a step back and tidied his collar for him. Well, I had almost guessed it. I originally thought that today was just a simple mutual visit between me and Stark. I didn't expect so many people to be interested, Liang Yue said with a helpless smile. At this time, for that portable fusion technology that can be maturely applied to individual soldier armor equipment, many countries, forces, and groups in this world will of course be interested. Saying that, Aunt Liu gently took his arm, and while slowly walking towards the gate of the castle, she waved to Chief Stacy, who had already greeted them outside the door, as if very familiarly. It's just that, compared to the kind smile on Aunt Liu's face, old George's expression seemed a little stiff. Including our country, then when you leave after everything is done, Aunt Liu, you can copy a copy of the technical data and take it away, and take a few arc reactors along with you. Alice, the country will not forget your contribution. Liang Yue, it's my duty. After a brief exchange, Aunt Liu went forward on her own and exchanged greetings with Chief Stacy, and Sister Lu Yao approached Liang Yue again at this time, and said to him softly, a friendly reminder. Someone on the police car you were on at the time posted the news that you have mini arc reactor technology for sale on the black market. The information costs as much as $1 million per copy. Now, you are probably already a thorn in the side of many people. You'd better prepare for it as soon as possible. My suggestion is that returning to the country is the safest option. Who the hell is it? So unethical. With the arrival of Aunt Liu and Sister Lu Yao, the atmosphere in the living room quickly changed. That feeling was quite subtle, different from Chief George Stacy, who came with a majestic buff. Aunt Liu, as the president of the hospital, gave people a feeling like a spring breeze. She could chat with anyone, and her friendliness was max. Under Aunt Liu's mediation, the originally somewhat stiff atmosphere in the living room became harmonious and smooth. Everyone was talking and laughing, and even his classmates visibly became more talkative. Liang Yue was afraid that he would not be able to develop this kind of social skill in his lifetime. Soon, unknowingly, the time came to round 8:20. Just as Liang Yue took out a piece of emerald green jade rabbit and gave it to Lena next to Gwen as a meeting gift, the unique click-clack sound of a helicopter suddenly appeared in his ears. The sound went from far to near, and soon came to the sky above his manor. Hearing the sound, Liang Yue greeted everyone again, and then walked towards the door on his own. Just as he walked to the platform in front of the door, the helicopter opposite had already landed on the grass not far away. Immediately afterwards, Stark jumped out of the cabin first, wearing sunglasses, and then Pepper, Natasha, and Betty landed in turn with his help. After sending people over, the helicopter flew away directly under the skilled operation of the pilot. Chapter 447 New Neighbors. Welcome, everyone. From a distance, Liang Yue had already opened his arms to greet them, his face beaming with the hospitable joy of a hosto. It seems you have quite a few guests at home today. I can already feel the enthusiasm here. Seeing old George, Aunt Liu, and the others walking out of the gate behind him, a look of surprise appeared on Stark's face. However, he quickly put on a full smile, and also opened his arms, preparing to receive someone's embrace. Unfortunately, Liang Yue naturally had no interest in getting all mushy with a big man like him. He walked straight past Star-Lord, embraced Betty with a beaming smile, and gently kissed her on the lips. I didn't expect you to come, Betty. After whispering a few words in her ear, Liang Yue turned around and hugged Natasha. But I'm not surprised at all that you came unexpectedly. The Black Widow's enthusiasm for Liang Yue seemed to surpass even that of the host himself. giving him a passionate kiss that left Liang Yue a little dazed. A French kiss lasted for several seconds, until Betty's expression changed slightly, before Liang Yue took the initiative to end the contact. Pepper. After separating, this guy once again turned his attention to Pepper beside him, but just as Liang Yue opened his arms, preparing for another welcoming ceremony, Stark, who was on the side, finally couldn't stand it anymore and directly blocked him. Hey, she's mine. Alright, most of them were coffee, or carefully prepared tea beverages. Only the little beauty, Lena Stacy, was treated specially. Following Gwen's suggestion and help, she was treated to a cup of rich chocolate milk and honey mixture. Frankly speaking, if Tony Stark, as a local tyrant of the United States, didn't know that the information that Liang Yue's manor possessed the ability to mass-produce arc reactors had been put on the black market for sale, then this would be underestimating this big dog's abilities. But Stark was obviously a little surprised, even astonished, that the guests who came to Liang Yue's house today were not just his group. At the very least, Stark shouldn't have expected that the trouble would come so quickly. Of course, this so-called trouble was mainly aimed at Liang Yue's side. Look at who came with him today. He and Pepper represented Stark Industries. Natasha represented S.H.I.E.L.D. Although Betty's identity boundary was relatively blurred due to some personal reasons, based on the weight of her powerful father in the military, she herself could naturally be regarded as a representative of military forces. Now, the Stacy family had unexpectedly come as the director of the New York Police Department, Old George himself, in addition to representing the vast police force of the United States, had political figures behind him, and Aunt Liu and Sister Liao represented a powerful country across the Pacific Ocean. This was only the first day after the incident. Therefore, facing the situation in front of him that seemed to be getting out of control, Stark, who had originally been gloating and watching the excitement, suddenly felt that he had gone a bit too far. Perhaps it was because he felt a trace of guilt in his heart, after temporarily dealing with Director George, Aunt Liu, and Holland's unusually worshipful intentions. Stark took the initiative to come to Liang Yue's side, took a sip of his coffee with relish, and then said casually, "Why does even your coffee taste better than mine? You know, I always use the best. That's because the environment where I grow my coffee is better, including the brown sugar you just used. Also, the production process is also special." Needless to say, by now, Liang Yue's food, clothing, and daily necessities have basically been sourced from within the outpost world. Among them, naturally, coffee and other beverages are also included. It's not just about cultivation and planting, even the roasting and other steps in the production process are completed under the McC framework. Although this process looks a bit silly, as long as you put the seeds into the stove, you can complete the original elaborate process in a moment, without worrying about overcooking or insufficient cooking time. But under the special rules of McC, various products can automatically achieve the best state. So, under normal circumstances, the things in Liang Yue's house, especially all kinds of agricultural and livestock crops, are of much better quality than those outside. Oh? Do you mean to say that your coffee is all grown by yourself? Where? In this manner, hearing his words, Stark was immediately a little surprised. Sort of. You should know that I sometimes enter some strange places. Alright, by the way, let me tell you some bad news, kid. We will soon be neighbors. Just before coming here, I have successfully acquired the ownership of tens of thousands of acres of land next to this manor. Are you finally going to fulfill your promise to Miss Pepper? Of course. Giving her a castle was originally in my plan. As he said this, Stark seemed to look a little guilty at Pepper, who was chatting happily with Aunt Liu, Betty, and others not far away, and then continued, however, to acquire tens of thousands of acres of land that were not originally within the scope of the state government's sale in a short period of time, even for the great Mr. Stark, requires a legitimate reason. Guess how I did it? You want to invest in building a factory on that land. Hearing this, Liang Yue's eyes flickered a few times, and then he replied with some surprise, "Well, you guess it. Driving the economic development of northern New York is indeed a good reason. In addition, as an important investment plan for Stark Industries in the next period of time, in order to ensure the safety of the group's industries, I also plan to establish a security company here." Speaking of this, Stark glanced at him seemingly casually, and continued with a meaningful tone, "Maybe, at that time, I will, as a partner, incidentally help you take care of the security here." He thanks, but there's no need for that. In fact, just a few days ago, I had Xiao Wu acquire a poorly managed security company, the kind that has qualifications and licenses to legally possess some gun usage rights. Are you sure you don't need my help? Of course. In fact, my family's defense force is already quite good. Don't need to recruit more people, just rely on the few maids in your house. You yourself still have to go to school, right? I'm sure. Alright. Chapter 448 Home Defense. As of now, Liang Yue's main base in the real world is this. In fact, ever since he returned from the Naruto world, regardless of whether there was anyone at home or not, or whether Changnu was at home in the Stronghold world, as long as he himself was not present, Liang Yue had almost habitually created several shadow clones to sit in the various hidden corners of the manor. In addition to increasing his daily cultivation, it was also meant to guard the safety of his home. Of course, these equipment were basically just firearms and some more basic combat firepower supplies at this moment, although Liang Yue's manor looked like a peaceful and elegant paradise in the eyes of outsiders, but secretly, in the underground in various hidden corners invisible to ordinary people, it was gradually being transformed into a heavily guarded firepower defense zone. Various automated and semi-automated traps, remote-controlled gun platforms, sniper platforms, artillery platforms, etc., controlled by Liang Yue and the intelligent AI Xiao Wu, had been quietly laid out here. Although it had not yet reached the point of instantly transforming from a paradise into a grim mechanical dense array, it was already sufficient to handle general defense and guard duties, of course, so far, due to limitations in raw materials, layout time, and other aspects. The defense measures currently equipped in the manor were mostly still at the level of light weapons. Among them, the most powerful equipment was probably the shrapnel-type electromagnetic gun launcher temporarily developed by the intelligent AI Xiao Wu based on publicly available information on various electromagnetic guns online. The power source came from a medium-sized arc reactor under the manor. However, because the caliber of this electromagnetic gun was roughly similar to that of a grenade launcher, and the bullets were even smaller than some grenade launcher ammunition, so, theoretically speaking, as long as there was enough ammunition, it could almost endlessly supply the firepower output needs of the electromagnetic gun if necessary. When a shell was fired, it would instantly split into 36 solid sub-projectiles the size of steel nails within a certain range under Xiao Wu's control. It could almost hit wherever it was aimed. The only pity was that the range of this light electromagnetic gun was not very far, and theoretically, it could only defend the area within 100 kilometers around the manor. This data alone was not even as high as the electromagnetic gun prototypes developed by various major countries. In reality, the effect would naturally be greatly reduced when encountering terrain with obstructions. Fortunately, if it was only used to defend one's own manor, it should already be enough. Moreover, this was just the beginning. After a brief reception, the next time finally entered the key stage of this exchange activity. Although there were more people than originally planned, it was not a big problem at this time. Liang Yue was leading the crowd towards the underground space of the castle. The team included not only Stark, Aunt Liu, Old George, Natasha, and Betty, but even Lena and Mrs. Stacy were there, and no one else was left behind. Soon, under his leadership, the group stepped into an underground corridor composed of pure metal blocks. The light here was very bright, almost silvery white. And at the end of the corridor was an elevator. In order to reduce the oppressive feeling in the semi-enclosed space in front of them, the intelligent AI Xiao Wu also specially played music, and a faint light music was echoing in the air at this time. By the way, Aunt Liu, I want to order a batch of raw materials from China. Do you have any connections in this area? During the process, Liang Yue suddenly had a thought, and then turned back to ask Aunt Liu, who looked calm behind him. What kind of raw materials do you want? Aunt Liu looked at him in surprise when she heard this. Roughly, I need some basic steel, alloys, rare earths, silver, saltpeter, and sulfur. The reason for asking this question was naturally to purchase a batch of basic materials for Xiao Wu to manufacture various firearms and firepower. Although he already had a lot of raw material reserves in his stronghold world, those were mostly mined by Liang Yue and the women, one pickaxe at a time. How could it be as convenient as buying directly from reality? When the time comes, a bundle of small pieces of paper will be scattered, and hundreds or thousands of tons of materials can be harvested. It's simply too cost-effective. Want to manufacture firearms in America? You don't seem to have the qualifications yet. Director Stacy, who was beside him, reminded him in a timely manner when he heard this. Of course I understand this, so I don't plan to manufacture in this country. That's good. And when are you planning to have it, and where do you need to take delivery? Aunt Liu nodded in agreement after considering for a while. The sooner the better in terms of time. As for the location, it's fine in China. I plan to rent a larger warehouse specifically for storing these things. I'll pick them up myself when the time comes. As the world's largest factory, manufacturing base, and Liang Yue's hometown, China is undoubtedly the most convenient place to obtain these basic raw materials. When the goods arrive, Liang Yue can immediately cross over with a circle, put them into the stronghold world, and then come back immediately. without relying on any ship transportation. Then give me a list when you leave later, and I'll be responsible for helping you solve the matter of purchasing materials. Okay. Arriving at the real underground scientific research zone by elevator, the moment the elevator door opened, Stark walked out directly, with an excited and impatient look on his face when he saw the first fresh thing from a research room through the thick glass wall. He suddenly became uneasy. What is this? A flying sword? A magic weapon from your Eastern mythology. Looking at the unique punk flying sword that was motionless and quietly suspended on the experimental platform, Tony Stark unconsciously put his hands on the glass at this time, and asked with glowing eyes. The appearance of the others seemed to be no better, and each of them stared wide-eyed, looking at the flying sword that was surrounded by various lighting instruments and mechanical arms, their eyes full of curiosity and questions. You even know about flying swords? Liang Yue was also a little surprised after hearing this title from Stark. Ever since you appeared in my field of vision, I have been cramming for a period of time on the knowledge of the Eastern mystical system. Tell me quickly, buddy, is that a flying sword? Stark continued to ask impatiently at this time. Unfortunately, in the expectant eyes of everyone, Liang Yue gave a negative answer. No, in fact that's just a skateboard that can freely transform according to the owner's wishes, but it can indeed achieve flight to a certain extent. Chapter 449 Transparent Metal. A skateboard. Aunt Liu was surprised to hear this, and the fiery look in her eyes faded. It seems Aunt Liu is also very interested in the Chinese Xiangxia system. Lu Yao, Natasha, and others also showed the same expression. However, her classmates next to her thought the skateboard was cool and still looked excited. What kind of power does this thing use? An arc reactor? It doesn't seem to have reached that stable state yet. Also, why don't I see any jets on it? At this time, Stark was half squatting on the ground, tilting his head and trying to aim his gaze at the bottom structure of the skateboard through the floating space between the skateboard and the test bench. Regarding Stark's direct question, Liang Yue didn't hide anything and told the truth. This skateboard comes from an intermediate technology plane, using gravitational wave technology and light wave power. What? Gravitational wave technology. In other words, it doesn't actually need energy, right? More or less. After all, waves and light are everywhere in the universe. After hearing Liang Yue's answer, Stark, Aunt Liu, Director Stacy, Natasha, Betty, and others' eyes suddenly became fiery again when they looked at the laboratory. It is definitely more desirable and crazy than the enviable nuclear fusion arc reactor technology in Stark's hands. Stark, Aunt Liu, Old George, Betty, Natasha, etc. are quite insightful in terms of social cognition and have a very sound knowledge system. Okay, everyone present, except for Gwen's little cousin Lena, probably understands the value represented by the skateboard now. The difference lies only in the respective extension directions and the depth of exploration. Therefore, after receiving Liang Yue's reply, everyone inevitably fell into their own thoughts. It wasn't until a quarter of an hour later that Liang Yue interrupted their divergent thinking and continued to introduce to everyone. In fact, in addition to the power source, the material of the skateboard itself, the color coding on the surface, the free deformation ability, and the internal semi-intelligent control system are all very valuable. It's a pity that I haven't had this skateboard for very long, so I haven't been able to research too many valuable things from it. That means you've already had some results, right? Director Stacy keenly noticed a meaning in Liang Yue's words at this time, rubbed her temples, eased her emotions, and then looked over with anticipation. Of course. The others look similar. Okay, just a few days ago, Xiao Wu has derived a special metal material from the material and color structure of this skateboard. It's lightweight, durable, has high tensile and puncture resistance, and also has a certain degree of ductility. In addition, and most importantly, this metal looks transparent to the naked eye, with a faint golden color, and is definitely stronger than those bulletproof glass on the market. With that, Liang Yue led everyone to an open laboratory next door. Amidst everyone's reluctance at this time, a light golden transparent metal, about 1 meter square and half a centimeter thick, was being repeatedly tossed about under the operation of a robotic arm. In your description of this metal just now, except for stating that it is transparent, almost all of it is nonsense. You really should improve your scientific expression level, kid. After giving Liang Yue a disgusted look, Stark came to a computer on his own under his skillful manipulation. The various data of this transparent metal quickly appeared on the screen. Seeing this, everyone also gathered around, watching intently at the same time. While everyone else was staring at the computer screen, Stark's hand quietly reached into his pocket, and then secretly wiped it on the computer's main unit from beginning to end. His gaze never left the screen. Unfortunately, All of this happened under someone's nose. Liang Yue didn't stand on ceremony with this rich dog, and went straight forward to grab the mainframe. Then, he took out a metal disc, about the size of a 1 yuan coin. From it, the seemingly small and exquisite device was full of various precision structures and electronic components. Then, Liang Yue crushed the metal disc into a piece of iron sheet under Stark's unwilling and ashamed gaze, and under everyone's strange gazes. Okay, I just wanted to learn more about this metal. With that, the rich dog scratched his scalp a little unnaturally, and then pretended to be calm and changed the subject. Hey Liang Yue, how about we talk about cooperation? I think your transparent metal is very good. The faint golden color is very suitable for replacing glass. It also fits my temperament very well. I plan to replace all the glass on Stark Tower with this stuff. Name a price. I won't bargain. Really, let's talk about that later. If we really want to trade, Xiao Wu's production for the next month probably won't be enough to meet your needs. Let's go to the next stop first. After speaking, Liang Yue glanced at Stark helplessly, and then led everyone deeper into the underground space at the same time. Just as everyone came to another laboratory window, under Liang Yue's explanation, and was paying attention to a spherical camera, in the distant sky, 6 or 7 high-tech black-armed helicopters took off almost without warning from near the Great Lakes, carrying ammunition, and quickly flew towards the manor. Inside the cabin, a group of mysterious people wearing black helmets, combat uniforms, and holding automatic firearms, almost armed to the teeth, were silently in the middle. At this time, there seemed to be a few too many people in the helicopters. It seemed that they had exceeded the original standard seating capacity, so the cabin was slightly crowded. However, they didn't seem to have any complaints about this, just sitting quietly like statues. Chapter 450 Real Sand Table. The spherical camera in front of me was naturally the one that had made great contributions to Liang Yue in the past, accompanying him through the Hobbit and Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber worlds. However, Liang Yue doesn't need it for the time being. After copying all the video recordings inside, this guy sent it to the hands of the intelligent brain, Xiao Wu. In fact, its official name should be Fully Automatic Voice-Activated Camera, claiming to be from a certain technological plane. Since it was an item that Liang Yue brushed out from the system wall in the early stage, its technical content is naturally not as high as the previous gravitational wave skateboard. However, it is still very worthy of research. Specifically, this camera is an amphibious product for land, sea, and air. It has a built-in solar panel, and the efficiency of photoelectric conversion and output can reach a balance of use at the lowest. Moreover, it uses a real-world camera, which eliminates the combined application of picture pixel modules. The precision of the lens itself can be adjusted arbitrarily within 10 kilometers. The memory space capacity is far beyond any product in the real world, reaching 100 YB. If the more common memory storage units GB and MB on the market are in the 3rd and 4th stages of memory measurement units, then this YB is in the 8th layer. Therefore, perhaps this camera is not as technologically advanced as other items in the laboratory, but its research value is still subtly higher than those things that look more high-end because the technology on this camera is more practical. Moreover, the technical content is relatively simple, which is more conducive to the development and utilization of the intelligent brain Xiao Wu. Now, Xiao Wu has successfully extended a very good technology from this camera. At this time, Liang Yue brought everyone around him to an open laboratory again. As soon as they entered the door, what was presented in front of them was a 3D real-world sand table that was exactly the same as the real scene. The scene constructed in the sand table is the scene above the ground of Liang Yue's manor. To be precise, the real-time scene within a radius of 300 miles centered on the manor. At this time, the southern part of the sand table contains a part of the cityscape of New York. I saw on the crisscrossing streets, vehicles of various specifications were constantly flowing in it. With exhaust fumes overflowing the shops on both sides of the road, pedestrians, green trees blown by the wind, stray cats on the street corners, helicopters flying over the city, airships with advertisements, clouds in the sky, and even birds of various postures, flying freely. Now, just like the real world, it has been constructed on this sand table. Of course, the area of this real-world sand table itself is limited, about the size of a 3-meter square table, so all things are scaled down proportionally. Exquisite and miniature from the perspective of Liang Yue and others, it is like a small and rich mortal world. For me, it's more like an early warning system. Of course, if you have to apply it to the military, then the effect will be great, and it may change the course of the war to a certain extent. The reason for the expansion of its coverage is very simple. Xiao Wu upgraded it once and added some extra hardware equipment. As for the amount of calculation you mentioned, this seems to be a special kind of mirroring technology, which seems to involve some kind of code algorithm. Liang Yue was gesturing with his hands in front of him while saying this, which made everyone on the opposite side roll their eyes. Seeing this, Stark waved his hand in disgust, and then directly said, "Okay, you should call Xiao Wu out, I want to communicate with it." Report, Master. Within Xiao Wu's monitoring range, traces of suspected intruders have been found. Do you want to continue to pay attention? About a dozen minutes later, just as Stark and the avatar of the intelligent brain Xiao Wu were having a great conversation, someone was pulled aside by a group of his classmates to whisper Xiao Wu on Liang Yu's wrist. Suddenly sent an alert immediately afterwards. Everyone saw that on the real-world sand table in front of them, several helicopters were flying straight towards the manor from the north of the map. Afterwards, the pictures of these helicopters were enlarged by Xiao Wu. I saw that there were no signs on the pure black fuselage, and even the weapons and ammunition hanging below were specially painted black through the glass windows of the helicopter. Everyone could even see the body differences between the fully armed unidentified people inside the cabin. Once the other party enters my territory, destroy them directly. Okay, Master. Liang Yue naturally had nothing to say about the intruders. Even if he was facing the director of the New York Police Department at this time, he could say this without blushing or panting. After all, who told this place to be America? Don't you need to identify their origins? Perhaps due to professional habits, Natasha, who had been somewhat silent at this time, suddenly spoke. They came from the north, which means that the other party is likely not a local force in New York City. First of all, they are definitely not police, and if they are the military, there is no need to be so secretive. After speaking, Liang Yue looked at Natasha, with a bit of inquiry in his eyes. Seeing this, Natasha didn't say any more nonsense. She pressed one hand in her ear hole, and then talked in a low voice with a contact person on the other side. A few seconds later, the Black Widow turned her head again, and then said to him with a solemn and affirmative expression, "Not shield people, at least, not Director Fury's order." I see. Xiao Wu temporarily cut off all external communication in the manor. Communication signal has been blocked. After hearing Xiao Wu's reply, Liang Yue looked at Natasha again, and continued with a bit of helplessness on his face. "I can be sure that except for you, no one else present has used any communication equipment. Are you suspecting that SHIELD's communication methods are also unsafe?" Natasha frowned upon hearing this. "Purely from the purpose, if there is only arc reactor technology in my basement, the other party should not choose to take risks and launch an offensive against me today, especially in front of Director Stacy and Stark, unless it is after confirming that I have more attractive technology here, such as gravitational wave technology." After speaking, Liang Yue slowly came to the front of the real-world sand table, put his hands in his pockets, looked down at the several helicopters that were quickly approaching from the north, and his eyes flashed with a strong interest. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.